Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Lord, starting with 2 talents, all races are confused. Chapter 81. Of course, dragons are better than behemoths. There are advantages. For example, flying. For example, dragon language magic. The gap between the two is only in melee combat. In terms of melee combat, behemoth is indeed unique among the same level. Even in terms of physical strength alone, even the violent behemoth can be comparable to legendary troops. At the same time, the vitality is even far beyond most legendary troops. This also means that if the opponent uses behemoth to charge, combined with other powerful units such as Minotaur and Komodo, there is a slight chance to affect the battle group on your side. Of course, among them, the biggest threat to the enemy still lies in the hero unit. When the blessing of the Emperor cannot work on the hero, it means that the hero on Qin Feng's side is equal to it. Therefore, Qin Feng's expression was also a little solemn at this moment. At the same time, he quickly began to make arrangements and mobilize personnel. And at this moment, Kalia on the opposite side, a roar suddenly rang out. "All troops, follow me to charge." As the words fell, his body, which was nearly 2,820 meters tall, burst out with blood and energy, and his hair almost turned into golden hair, which looked scorching. One step forward, it was dozens of meters away. It looked like he was about to rush into the position. At this time, a figure flashed in front of him in an instant. At the same time, an indifferent voice rang out. "Shinra Tensai." A huge repulsive force was suddenly applied to Kalia's body, and it was thrown to the right. Under such power, Kalia's muscles bulged all over his body, and he wanted to resist this repulsive force with his physical strength. And he actually resisted it. Seeing this, the brows of the heavenly Dao clone were slightly raised. There is something. But, Frost Thorn, with his free right hand, the ice dragon spear thrust out fiercely. A cold current surged. Kalia's eyelids jumped suddenly. He could feel the power carried by the spear transformed from the frost power. So, he was distracted. Because of his distraction, the powerful repulsive force finally sent his body flying dozens of meters. He hadn't stood firm yet. The heavenly Dao clone had already arrived above him in midair, smiling. "Sorry, you can't go into the battlefield over there and wreak havoc. Your opponent is me." Quote. Kalia looked up. A cold look flashed in his eyes, and then he grinned. "Then I'll get rid of you first, and it won't be too late to go over." Similarly, at this time, Daisy found a hero. But he was from the fox tribe. The Lord was an ordinary fox, but he was very lucky and opened a summoning scroll in the treasure chest. Recruited this hero. This fox hero held a staff and wore a robe. The graceful figure could not be concealed at all. If it weren't for the snow-white fox tail behind him, it would be almost impossible to tell that this was a fox. This is also the difference between the fox tribe and the fox demon. The fox demon can completely transform. The fox man has no way to hide his tail. However, this is not a defect, especially for some people with special hobbies. This configuration adds a bit of fun. At this moment, Daisy looked at the hero with vigilance, muttering, "Don't let the Lord deal with this guy." Quote. Otherwise, he might be soft-hearted. Similarly, the bull demon clone found a lion hero. The beast king clone found a necromancer. The rest of the hero units, according to their strength, Qin Feng assigned them to the legendary troops under his command to deal with them separately. The battle, at this moment, finally entered a white-hot stage. 10 behemoths rushed towards the blood demon in a frenzy. During the wind and frost, tornado could not stop its pace. When Kalia sent out the real elite, it was no longer possible to completely stop it by relying on the attack of the ice mage. On one side of the battlefield, Kalia's face was full of anger. The two sides had fought several times, but every time, when he launched an attack, Qin Feng would use the Shinra Tensai. Under the powerful repulsion, his attack could not work at all. However, when he wanted to ignore Qin Feng and go to the front battlefield to support, a terrifying gravitational force will force him to pull. "Do you dare to fight head-on?" Kalia glared and shouted angrily. This kind of impotent rage is normal. After all, this heavenly Dao clone itself has a frosty constitution. With the help of SSS-level weapons, Qin Feng's attack is extremely powerful. Even a battle lord like Kalia can't ignore it. He can only dodge quickly. Then, he wants to attack. He was bounced out again. In such a cycle, anyone would be extremely angry. However, Qin Feng also had to sigh that Kalia was indeed strong enough. After all, he was a battle lord. His strength was extremely strong, and the heavenly Dao clone could not take him down in a short time. Another battle. Kalia, who was bounced out again, suddenly laughed out loud at this time. Human boy, your magic array cannot stop my elite troops. I will accompany you here. Let's see who will stop first. The heavenly Dao clone looked up and grinned at this time. Indeed. It has broken through. But are you sure that you can threaten my soldiers? Kalia was slightly stunned when he heard this. Looking at the center of the battlefield again, he finally found something wrong. The behemoths under its command did break through the frost storm. But at this moment, it was obviously much slower, and it did not rush forward as he imagined and directly break through the enemy formation and other high-level troops such as Minotaur and Komodo. It was even more unbearable, almost walking in place. This scene made Kalia couldn't help but shout, impossible. Under the same level, with the magic resistance of our race, we are almost immune to the damage of frost magic. How could this be? The heavenly Dao clone smiled even more. In fact, Kalia was not wrong. If it was the same level, the magic released by the frost mage, even if it was a king-level soldier, would hardly affect Bai Qing. But unfortunately, the frost mage, under the blessing of the human emperor, caused a 7th level attack strength. One level higher, even if the frost magic attack was not too fishy. But it was enough to affect the behemoths, the cold invasion. As for the Minotaur, although the magic resistance was high, it was not as good as the behemoth. Naturally, it was even more unbearable. In fact, this was because this part of the troops was indeed well trained. The wolf cavalry and others before were directly frozen in place and killed instantly. And obviously, no matter how powerful the behemoth was. But under the invasion of cold air, the movements were slowed down several times. It was like a lamb to be slaughtered. The blood demon wars, who had been prepared for a long time, came forward together and surrounded this part of the elite soldiers while ensuring that the formation was not messed up. Then, it was a one-sided massacre. Maybe originally, these behemoths could still cause some injuries to the blood demon wars. But at this moment, they didn't even have the ability to resist. Soon, they fell to the ground under the axe hacking. So, who is anxious now? Or, do you count on the hero units on your side? Or, take a closer look. The heavenly Dao clone spoke at the right time, his face full of mockery. Kalia's face was ugly, and after looking around, he was finally completely crazy. Because, he suddenly discovered, as a result, the hero units on his side also did not gain an advantage. The hero under his command was entangled by a woman, Daisy. Another hero was entangled by 2 holy knights and was at a disadvantage at the moment. The heroes of other lords were even worse. They were all suppressed by soldiers. At this moment, Kalia was confused and anxious. The confusion was, where did Qin Feng get so many high-level soldiers? And the strength of each one was, not at all like the 6th level. What was worrying was that if the situation continued like this, defeat was only a matter of time. How could this not be crazy? He knew that if he wanted to break the situation at this moment, then he had to defeat the heavenly Dao clone, so that he could go to various places to support with his personal combat power. Therefore, in the next moment, frenzy, blood burst. In an instant, Kalia released 2 skills. Moreover, both were burst types, which could improve his strength in a short period of time. Visible to the naked eye, Kalia's body swelled up, and his height soared to 25 meters. An extremely fierce breath burst out at this moment. Feeling this breath, a strange color flashed in the eyes of the heavenly Dao clone. As the dog desperate, Qin Feng muttered in his heart. His expression was particularly solemn. Kalia's own strength was not bad, and his own grade was about to be promoted to legend. Plus the level of 60. His strength was enough to fight against ordinary 8th level. At this moment, after performing 2 secret methods, his aura surged, and his combat power even reached the level of the late 8th level. This kind of strength must be handled with caution. After all, Shinra Tensai's repulsive defense is not invincible. If you have enough power, you can withstand the repulsive force and tear the defense. Qin Feng remembered that this happened in the original book. However, it is impossible to be afraid. It just needs to be treated seriously and with all your strength. While the opponent has not yet attacked, Qin Feng's eyes also swept across the battlefield. Not surprisingly, now the overall situation is very favorable. Whether it is at the high-end combat power level or in the ordinary battlefield, it is the same. So, just keep undefeated. That's what he was thinking. At this time, Kalia finally shouted and attacked. Die! Kalia stomped his foot on the ground. The terrifying force caused the ground to crack, and a circle of air waves visible to the naked eye spread out, even affecting other battlefields not far away. And at this moment, his body suddenly soared into the air like a cannonball. His palm also slapped Qin Feng fiercely. The 5 claws had completely turned into golden claws, carrying violent power, as if they could cut everything in the world. Seeing this scene, the main body in the territory now focused most of its energy on the heavenly Dao clone. Shinra Tensai, raising his hand, an invisible light shield was instantly generated, and a huge force began to repel everything that entered the range. However, it was only a moment. Qin Feng felt that the repulsive light circle was violently broken through. Can't really hold on, muttered in his heart. At this time, a bloodthirsty look flashed in Kalia's eyes. Die. However, the next second, Qin Feng's heavenly Dao clone showed a smile. Then, holding the gun with both hands, he swept it fiercely. Bang! A loud noise came. When the terrifying forces collided with each other, the air around them exploded instantly, and the air waves visible to the naked eye spread again, knocking some nearby soldiers to the ground 10 times. The figures of both sides retreated rapidly. Qin Feng retreated dozens of meters directly in the air. And Kalia fell back to the ground, his face full of disbelief. You, Qin Feng grinned and said lightly, you don't think that I only know a few tricks, do you? In fact, my close combat ability is not weak at all. This is the truth. The heavenly Dao clone can almost be said to have no shortcomings. Its close combat ability is not inferior to that of Shirado. The Tian Dao clone in the original work can withstand the beating of the protagonist's tailed beast and fight with him. Of course, this is also related to the strength of the corpse. But at this moment, the heavenly Dao clone condensed by Qin Feng is an SSS level physique. Naturally, its physical strength is definitely not weak. With the addition of SSS level weapons, it is no problem for Kalia to fight against hard steel. And just as he was speaking, Qin Feng had already chosen to take the initiative to attack. His whole body was emitting ice blue elemental power, and while urging the spear, his figure suddenly jumped. Wither. The power of frost covered the entire spear body. Qin Feng fell from the sky and stabbed straight down, looking for death. Kalia was furious. Close combat power is his proud and confident field. How could he be afraid? Raising his arm and waving it, his sharp claws cut through the air, producing an explosion. However, just at this moment, Qin Feng raised his left arm, and a faint voice rang out. All things attract the sky. As the words fell, the unparalleled gravity also erupted at this moment. Instantly, Kalia Lia's figure suddenly staggered, which resulted in the following. The attack distance was wrong. His attack was aimed at Qin Feng's spear, intending to collide with it. But because of the forward movement of his figure, he landed directly in the empty space behind him. Instead, Qin Feng successfully completed the thrust. This is also a flexible use of gravity and repulsion. The use of Shinra Tensai and Wanxiang Tianyan is not rigid, and can be used as an auxiliary in battle. Sometimes gravity pulls, and sometimes repulsion squeezes. Under the influence of the two forces, it is enough to make it difficult for the enemy to adapt, and the rhythm of the attack is firmly grasped. There is no accident, accompanied by a muffled sound. Puff! Kalia's chest was pierced by the spear. Then, a wisp of frosty air suddenly burst out from the tip of the spear and poured into his body. Get out of here, Kalia shouted, blood gushing out in pain. He suddenly mobilized the blood and chi in his body to force out the cold air that had invaded his body. But at the same time, a large amount of blood gushed out from the wound on his chest, forming a blood column. Qin Feng retreated. Looking at this scene, he said with a sigh, "You are worthy of being called Biwei. The blood and chi are really strong. You must have sprayed hundreds of pounds of blood in this wave just now." Can you bear it if you keep spraying like this? Kalia's eyes were gloomy, and he had already sealed his wound to stop bleeding. But the pool of blood on the ground was a real loss. Without too much nonsense, Kalia attacked again at this time, still making an unreasonable frontal charge. Seeing this, Qin Feng also used the same trick again. At the moment of his attack, he would go back and forth, counterattack at the same time. However, although he could rely on gravity and repulsion to take the initiative, but Behemoth's physique is too strong after all. It is difficult to win in a short time. On another battlefield, Qin Dali held a big knife and faced a white-browed tiger man. However, after a battle, it is obvious that Qin Dali has a huge advantage. Whether it is the breath or the overall condition, it is relatively intact. On the contrary, the tiger man on the opposite side is now covered with scars. Holy judgment, Qin Dali will not give the other party a chance to adjust. At this moment, he launched another attack. The golden and white light gathered on the long knife. It chopped down violently. Seeing this, the tiger man could only hastily parry with a scimitar. But even if it reacted quickly and successfully blocked the attack, but the energy level of both sides, as well as the offensive and defensive strength, are no longer at the same level. The golden light still burst out, falling on it, adding countless fine wounds to it again. Similarly, at Daisy, the Sky Fox Priest, a legendary hero. But he can't threaten Daisy at all. It is more of an auxiliary type, although its combat experience is not weak. But how can it be Daisy's opponent? It can only rely on various auxiliary skills to persevere. Until this moment, it has already shown its decline, and it is only a matter of time before it loses. The bull demon clone suppresses the lion hero in front of him. A big offensive. Suppress with pure power. The most important thing is fearless of death, completely disregarding defense, exchanging injuries for injuries. The fighting style is much more radical than that of the Heavenly Dao clone. And the reason for doing so is also very simple. That is, Qin Feng thought, anyway, he could be resurrected through the Hell Road. The cost of the Bull Demon clone's resurrection is much smaller than that of the Heavenly Dao clone. The resources consumed are not of the same order of magnitude. In addition, Qin Feng was thinking that if the Bull Demon clone died in battle, he might not need to be resurrected. It is not impossible to use Behemoth's body to create a Shira clone. Behemoth's body is stronger than the Bull Demon beast. However, it was with this idea that the other lion hero was defeated and suppressed. Otherwise, in fact, among many battlefields, this battlefield should be the most difficult. Because the lion is also a legendary hero. However, he is not under Kalia. He is a hero under another lord. It is also shown here that even if they are in the same alliance, the hearts of the members are not quite the same. The Lord of the Lion obviously does not want the hero under his command to fight with his life. After all, it is not so easy to recruit and train legendary heroes. There is only one legendary hero under this lord. If he dies in battle, there is no place to cry. There are many similar lords. Some of them even have the intention to retreat. The battle between Kalia and the clone of Tiandao is still going on. After several rounds of fighting, the two sides still can't decide the winner. Facing Kalia's attack again, Qin Feng's eyebrows were slightly raised at this time. He didn't choose to dodge or counterattack. Seeing that Kalia's attack was about to come, a voice rang out, "Lord, I'll help you." During the words, a ray of golden blade light came in an instant and forced Kalia back. However, Qin Tianli came with a big knife at this time. Seeing this, Qin Feng grinned, "Have you solved it?" Qin Dali nodded slightly. "Thanks to your cultivation, Lord. I am very strong now, and I will kill the tiger man soon." Qin Dali's eyes were blazing. He was emitting some golden light. The overall attribute of the Holy Judge profession was inclined to the light system, but with a strong killing ability. At the same time, it also had a strong restraint on evil energy. This evil included killing energy, dark energy, and various negative energies. Among many SSS level professions, it was also considered to be in the upper middle level. Therefore, Qin Dali was also considered strong among the ranks of legendary heroes. At the same time, he also had an SS level weapon. It was indeed possible to kill a legendary hero. At this time, Kalia's face was extremely ugly. 1 Volt 1, he couldn't get any advantage. 1 Volt 2, just think about how difficult it would be. However, it seemed to be discussed. At this time, a flash of lightning came to Qin Feng's side. At the same time, a beautiful head was thrown to the ground. Daisy smiled and said, "Lord, I have also resolved the battle. This vixen is not that powerful, but she is quite tenacious." Qin Feng was not surprised to hear this, because, in his original estimation, the first one to end the battle should be Daisy. After all, Daisy is the only legendary hero in the territory, and her fighting power can even be compared with herself. Even when facing the behemoth Lord Kalia, she can fight. At this moment, it is reasonable to come to support. Qin Feng was talking and laughing. Kalia, who was on the ground, looked more and more ugly at this time. Even, he did not take the initiative to attack. However, it was at this time. Qin Feng turned his head and looked at Kalia, grinning and said, "Have you ever felt what despair is?" Kalia was stunned, but he saw that Qin Feng suddenly went towards the front battlefield. Instantly, he was horrified and subconsciously wanted to stop him. But Daisy and Qin Dali would not give him this opportunity. Thunder Chain, Holy Light Binding. Almost instantly, two different colors, but the same binding-based skills, were applied to him. If it was a single binding, he could still break free in a short time. He just needed to burst out the blood and chi. But he couldn't do 2 layers of binding. After all, the blood and chi burst also requires a time interval. Therefore, he could only stare at Qin Feng flying to the front battlefield. At this moment, the front battlefield, in fact, it already has a huge advantage. After the charging behemoth and minotaur and other high-level soldiers were killed, the blood demon berserkers have already begun to advance layer by layer. As for the coalition forces, they were already retreating step by step, and thousands of people died. If nothing unexpected happens, after a while, these coalition forces can be defeated. But with the arrival of Qin Feng, above the sky, at this time, a cold voice suddenly rang out. "Super, Shinra Tensai." As the words fell, the terrifying repulsive force ripples burst out along his hands. Then, it was visible to the naked eye. Thousands of coalition soldiers were crushed into powder and their flesh and blood scattered under this terrible force. Or they were directly knocked hundreds of meters away and their internal organs were broken. Just one blow. A flat area with a diameter of hundreds of meters appeared above the passage. There were no soldiers here. Despair and fear spread instantly. The remaining soldiers began to flee one after another, wanting to return to the vassal of the territory behind. However, the heavenly Tao clone, at this time, after taking a short breath, he released a black sphere with his hands. Earth-shattering star. The black sphere floated and came to the middle area of the fleeing soldiers. Then, the earth broke apart. Pieces of rock and soil, along with the soldiers, were absorbed. Until, a stone ball with a diameter of 100 meters was suspended in the air, like a round of stars. Hundreds of people were killed again. Kalia's eyes were bloodshot. In the territory, the lords of the coalition also widened their eyes, their hearts were broken, and they lost their will to fight. How to fight this? This human race is too strong. It's over. This failure has caused too much loss. We can't recover at all. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have participated. Quote. Annoyance, regret, fear, contradiction. All kinds of emotions lingered in the hearts of these lords. However, even at this point, everything was still not over. Slightly adjusted. At this time, Qin Feng's eyes were dim, and when he raised his hand, the rich elemental calendar gathered. Then, Yellow Spring Swamp. A large area of land began to soften and turned into a swamp, until it covered an area of 100 meters. Ponds of earthy yellow swamp mud swallowed up everyone who stepped into it. This swamp is not an ordinary swamp. It has a strong gravity blessing, even the 6th level king level soldiers cannot escape. When the 3 skills are used up, at this moment, the remaining coalition forces are less than 1,000. In total, 70% to 80% of the troops have been lost. At this time, a roar suddenly rang out, "I choose to surrender." The words fell. Kalia finally chose to admit defeat without hesitation. At this time, between heaven and earth, beams covered all personnel. Everyone, at this moment, stopped moving. The war settlement began. Soon, a panel emerged. This alliance war. Final result. Battle damage. 0. Ordinary unit kills. 3,258. Hero unit kills. 29. Congratulations to your alliance for winning this alliance war. Due to the war agreement, you have received the other party's agreement compensation. Do you want to announce the result of the war? Under the prompt sound. As the victor, Qin Feng can directly announce the result of the war at this moment. And for this, Qin Feng directly chose to announce it. After all, even if he did not announce the result, there were still so many lords on the other side, and the result would always be announced. So, it is better to announce it himself. It can also increase the deterrent effect. And just after Qin Feng chose to announce the result. At this time, the rest of the lords in the area received the prompt sound. Ding, the alliance war initiated by Qin Feng Alliance has ended at present. The final result will be announced in the chat channel in 30 seconds. With this prompt sound ringing. In the chat channel, a group of people were also speculating at this moment. It's over. So soon. It's not even an hour yet. Who will win? Of course, it must be the Overlord Alliance, otherwise it wouldn't be possible for it to end so quickly. Quote. Yes, the Overlord Alliance has more than 10 lords and several thousand soldiers in total. How can they be defeated so quickly? A group of people were guessing. At this time, a panel data finally appeared in the chat channel. Let me see, what's going on? No, shit, is this, the Qinfeng Alliance won? Is this the key code? The key is that the casualties are 0. Doesn't this mean that this is a crushing battle? How is it possible? Could it be that Qin Feng is already a level 7 lord? But even if he is level 7, it's not possible, unless the soldiers under his command are of extremely high quality. Everyone was guessing. At this time, a statement appeared. Kalia, at Bai Na, approve the friend request, I have something to tell you. Soon, a message replied. Bai Na, already approved. Quote. The war is over. After the final conclusion, the winner and loser were determined. The lords were teleported back to their respective territories. Qin Feng was not surprised. At this moment, Qin Feng, who was planning to count the profits, received a message from Yu Xiaoyu. Look at the chat channel, Kalia contacted Baina. They must be joining forces. Qin Feng looked at the message and was not surprised by Zhao Hao. After all, now that he has shown his strength, if other lords are unwilling to surrender, then continuing to increase the strength of the alliance is the only choice. Immediately, he replied, it doesn't matter. It's just an alliance of chickens and pottery dogs. The reply is complete. At this time, Daisy on the side sighed softly, it's a pity that the behemoth was not killed. Qin Feng smiled and said, if I really want to kill him, my heavenly Dao clone would not have left at that time. It's just that killing him is not very profitable. Quote. And after this battle, it's not easy for Behemoth to recover, and basically there is no threat. Indeed, this is the choice Qin Feng made himself. At that time, after Daisy and Qin Dali's support, the advantage has been completely transformed into a winning advantage. And Qin Feng is also facing two choices. The first is to cooperate with Daisy and Qin Dali to kill Kalia. At that time, the leader of the other party's alliance will die, and victory can also be achieved. The second is to kill other soldiers as before. When a certain number of soldiers are killed, the other party can choose to surrender. Two choices. Each has its advantages and disadvantages. Among them, the advantage of the first one is naturally kill Kalia. The war is also won. And the advantage of this method is that it completely eliminates an enemy. As for the second method, it is for resources, killing thousands of soldiers, and all of them are above level 5, the resources obtained are undoubtedly much more. In the end, between the two options of killing Kalia and obtaining resources, Qin Feng chose resources. After all, competitors like Kalia will emerge endlessly. Killing a Kalia, there is also Baina, and others. Rather than reducing an enemy that has already lost most of its soldiers and the threat is greatly reduced, it is better to obtain resources and become stronger. But it's still a pity. Qin Feng shook his head at this time. In fact, the best way to win is to kill it yourself and obtain enough resources. Then this Qin Dali cooperates with Daisy to kill Kalia directly before it reaches the surrender standard. But Kalia is a behemoth. The vitality is strong enough, and it is not that he did not do this in the end. And it's a pity that the Alliance challenge roll can only be used once a month. Otherwise, just get rid of the Bina Alliance, and there won't be so much trouble. Qin Feng sighed in his heart. If there is no such restriction, he would continue to challenge at this moment. However, under the rules of the Endless World, there is a cooling time limit for various scrolls that start wars. And the time limit varies according to the scroll. The lowest level challenge roll can be used once a day. The intermediate challenge roll can be used once every 3 days. The advanced challenge roll can be used once a week. For the higher ones, the time will be longer. Among them, the highest level, Realm Challenge Order, can only be used once every 100 years. Of course, correspondingly, accepting challenges is also subject to this restriction. That is to say, within this month, Qin Feng cannot initiate any challenge to others, and others cannot initiate any challenge to Qin Feng. Never mind, just close the alliance. What I need to do is not to regard them as opponents, but to make myself stronger. The next month will be quiet. The next goal, the final assessment for newcomers. Qin Feng's eyes were burning. In addition to receiving a considerable reward based on the final results, the final assessment for newcomers is the most important thing. If the results are good enough, they will enter a special list. Hidden Dragon List. This list will include the top 1,000 new lords in the entire Endless World. And the benefits of entering it. Of course, there are many. For example, there will be some specific tasks issued. You can get additional resources. For example, there will be a strange realm that only these lords can enter. If you can't enter this list, even if you become a 10th level lord, build a city, and go to the central realm, you will still be the weakest. The lords who can enter this list and successfully go to the central realm, they will have stronger background and strength, and will be more likely to be cultivated by their tribe. At first, Qin Feng naturally had no idea in this regard. After all, in the Endless World, the number of new lords in the same batch is counted in millions, tens of millions or even more. The lords in this list, behemoths and dragons, are all low-end. Among them, there are many angels, Shiras, Zergs, Titans and other fishy tribes. So, my real target, opponent, is them. Qin Feng's heart was full of confidence and expectations for the follow-up. Ding, the benefits of this alliance war are as follows. Basic reward for winning, 50,000 resources. Additional reward for agreement, 570,000 resources. Kill conversion reward, more than 390,000 resources. You are the leader of the alliance, please allocate resources. Qin Feng looked at the prompts in the panel. Soon, he made a decision. Yu Xiaoyu, 100,000. Qin Feng, 910,000 plus some change. Yu Xiaoyu was given 100,000 resources. Among them, Yu Xiaoyu later added 70,000 in the agreement bet, so she should be given 70,000. Qin Feng only gave her an additional 30,000 resources. And this 30,000, in Qin Feng's view, is a reward for trusting him. Soon, after the resources were distributed, Yu Xiaoyu also seemed very excited. Messages were sent one after another. The content of the messages was very simple. It was similar to, I was right about you. Big profit. But Qin Feng, are you almost reaching level 7 territory? Woo woo, I have to work hard, otherwise the gap will get bigger and bigger. To this, Qin Feng just replied, if it doesn't work, just give up. When I build a city, just come to me and merge your territory. That's it. After some casual chatting and teasing, Qin Feng finally looked at his own resources. Total resources, 1,514,561. So many resources. At this time, Feng muttered, I don't know if it is enough to upgrade to level 7 territory. While muttering, Qin Feng did not hesitate. He started directly and carried out a major transformation of the territory. All the houses were upgraded and turned into spiritual houses. All the animal pens were upgraded and turned into spiritual animal pens. And the rest, farmland was transformed into spiritual fields. Wells were upgraded to spiritual springs. After the buildings were upgraded, millions of resources had been spent. This also made Qin Feng grin. It seems that there is no hope of upgrading today. Quote. With a sigh. At this time, Qin Feng spent a full 100,000 resources to build the Spirit Stone conversion furnace. And, in the territory, he repaired some of the spirit lamps. It has to be said, a large amount of resources have been invested. Now the entire territory has indeed undergone tremendous changes. There is a sense of fairy air. Indistinctly, you can even see some white mist produced by the strong enough spiritual power. However, what makes Qin Feng a little headache is daily spirit stone consumption, 1,200 pieces. Daily conversion of spirit stones, 1,000 pieces. This means very simple. Before, it was the farming era, and buildings and so on were more primitive. All buildings have no additional consumption expenditure. But now, spirit lamps and the like all require spiritual time. The current territory, with its spiritual power concentration, can only convert 1,000 spiritual stones, even with the bonus of the characteristics. There is still a gap of 200. And one spiritual stone, converted with resources, is a ratio of 1 to 30. That is, here alone, 6,000 resources are consumed every day to maintain the operation of the territory. This is why 99 out of 100 people cannot choose the path of cultivating immortals, this development route. Qin Feng still has the 10 times spiritual power bonus of the territory characteristics. 6,000 resources are spent every day. If there is no such bonus, wouldn't it be necessary to spend more than 30,000 resources every day to maintain the operation? It would be great if we could get a spiritual vein. Or, just move the territory directly to the gray fog area. Quote. Qin Feng sighed. These are two solutions to this problem. However, the first solution depends on chance. Low-level spirit veins are at least S-level rated, and are rare. After all, they are things that can improve the concentration of spirit power in a large area of the entire territory. Similar things include magic crystal veins, and coal veins. This thing can basically only be obtained from treasure chests. The second solution is that the overall concentration of various energies in the gray fog area is twice that of the initial area. That is, after moving to the gray fog area, with the addition of characteristics, the territory not only does not need to spend extra spirit stones. Even the spirit stone conversion device can produce a lot every day. These spirit stones, accumulated, are of great use to the soldiers of the cultivation type. However, correspondingly, the gray fog area is more dangerous than the novice area. For example, the area outside at this moment. Qin Feng believes that once the entire territory is moved there, it will immediately attract the attention of the wild elves on Kashan. Wait until level 7. Quote, just in these few days, I can take a rest and recuperate, and take the reward of the arms race by the way. Qin Feng thought about it in his heart and decided not to be so anxious. And the days that followed. It was also in a dull state. Every day, some soldiers were still sent to the gray fog area to sweep some scattered tribes. At the same time, with the tribute of several subordinates, the surrendered lords. The amount of resources obtained every day was also not cheap, basically 150,000 to 200,000 in total. That's it. As the days passed, this day, as night fell, it was also the day of settlement of the arms race. However, unlike the last time, this time, no one mentioned Lord Baina and other lords in the arms race. Instead, who else could it be? It must be boss Qin Feng. Quote, hey, I don't know how far my territory is from the boss's territory. Anyway, if I meet him, I will surrender immediately. Surrender. Join our anti-Qin alliance. There are more than 60 lords now. If he dares to start an alliance war, just kill him. Everyone sighed. Midnight finally arrived. Midnight is coming. Announcements are ringing in the ears of all the people. Time, minute by minute, more and more people are announced. Soon, the announced ranking is the top 10. And at this moment, in the room, Qin Feng is in a standing fight state. Squinting slightly, quietly waiting for the announcement of the final ranking. Finally, after the second rank Baina's ranking is announced, a prompt sound suddenly rang out. First place, Qin Feng, total points. Qin Feng didn't hear the following broadcast. Because, after hearing that he was confirmed to be the first place, he trembled all over. At this time, a soft humming sound rang out. Wow, so many. Qin Feng took a long breath, looked at Humei squatting in front of him, grinned and said, first place. It's really cool. Next, let's continue the lottery. The treasure chest will be opened tomorrow morning. The morning sun shone into the house. Qin Feng was refreshed, and after washing up, he started his daily work. First, he summoned 3 people from the territory to receive the infusion of star power. Then, he went to the fountain of life and took out the daily output. Then, stride towards the mysterious orchard. On the side, he walked towards the orchard. Qin Feng also opened the log at this time. Last night, he had too much fun and didn't pay much attention to what the third competition was. Now he opened it and took a look. Territory overall evaluation competition. He took a rough look at the rules of the competition. The settlement will be settled after 15 days. The overall evaluation includes the prosperity, territory level, soldier score, etc. No pressure. Qin Feng made such an evaluation after reading the content of the third round of competition. At this time, he had already arrived in front of the orchard. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the intermediate experience fruit X3. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the purple cloud fruit X1. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the magic weapon fruit X1. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the origin spirit fruit X1. Under the prompt sound, Qin Feng's expression was slightly stunned. Origin spirit fruit. What is this? He was a little confused. The first 5 fruits are considered daily output. Among them, the intermediate experience fruit, of course, needs no further explanation. The purple cloud fruit is a new output in the past few days. The grade is A level, and the effect is that it can restore energy after taking it. It can allow a 7th level strongman to instantly restore his spiritual power to full value. This also made Qin Feng quite happy. After all, the previous life spring was used to restore physical strength, and there was always a lack of props for restoring energy. But now, this defect has been made up. Moreover, the most important thing is, this thing can be used to make pills. One fruit, combined with some other materials, can make the purple cloud area of the furnace. However, Qin Feng currently has no talent in this area. Therefore, the purple cloud fruit is temporarily stored in the package and has not been used. Now, with this one, there are already 4 purple cloud fruits. However, what makes Qin Feng curious at this moment? It is the origin spirit fruit, which is a new fruit. Thinking in his heart, Qin Feng looked at its description at this time. Original spirit fruit grade. SS description. After taking it, you can improve your own talent and bone grade, up to SSS grade. Note, the improvement effect is not 100%, depending on the initial talent grade. The higher the initial talent, the lower the probability of getting the improvement. Looking at the introduction of the fruit, Qin Feng frowned slightly at this time. The fruit is undoubtedly extremely precious. After all, this is a fruit that can improve talent. However, according to the notes at the back, this fruit also has disadvantages. That is, it is more suitable for people with low-level talents. However, I have the source of life spring water, so people with talents below S level don't need to take it. In this case, Qin Feng directly sent a soul message to Qin Dali at this time. Come over here. Soon, Qin Dali ran over happily and asked with a puzzled look, Lord, what do you want? Qin Feng threw the source fruit over. Eat it and see if your talent can be advanced. Qin Dali didn't hesitate at all when he heard it, and stuffed the fruit into his mouth. After 3 or 2 bites, the fruit was swallowed. Then, he smacked his lips. It tastes pretty good. However, at the moment when the words fell, Qin Dali's brows were tightly furrowed. Then, a golden light surged uncontrollably and crazily. Qin Feng heard 2 prompts in succession. Ding! Your hero Qin Dali's talent, Giant Spirit Body, has been upgraded to Holy Spirit Body. Ding! Your hero Qin Dali has been upgraded from Legendary to Legendary. 2 prompts sounded. Qin Feng smiled at this time. It's done anyway. And, it's promoted to Legendary. While muttering, Qin Feng opened his panel. Qin Dali. Level 60. Legendary Hero. Talent, Holy Spirit Body SS. Profession, Holy Judge SSS. Skills, Holy Judgment Blade, Light of Judgment, Holy Duel, Holy Light Bodyguard, Holy Shock, Earth-Shattering Slash, Dragon Head Raising. Combat Power Rating, 80. Level 60, the combat power rating of the peak of the 8th level. Even, it can barely reach the early 9th level. So, there are 2 legendary heroes in the territory. And there is 1 more hero quota. At this time, Qin Feng began to consider whether to recruit another hero. Indeed, in fact, there are quite a few people with strong qualifications in the current territory. For example, 10 Holy Knights. For example, Hu Mei. For example, Qin Shan and Qin Yu. But unfortunately, Qin Feng does not have any extra, heroic souls, at present. Waiting on is not a solution. After all, next, start from the 7th level. After that, every time the territory is upgraded by 1 level, there will be 1 more hero quota. When it comes to building a city, there will even be 3 more hero quotas. Moreover, Qin Feng himself also has 1 more hero quota. Now, there are 2 vacancies, and there will be 1 more when the territory is about to be upgraded to the 7th level. In that case, let's go draw a wave of heroes later. Not too many, just take 100,000 resources to test the waters. Qin Feng looked at the current total amount of resources. 930,000. It's only 70,000 away from upgrading the territory. According to the usual daily income, there will be a little more after upgrading to the 7th level territory. First, the 7th level territory must be upgraded today. As for the buildings of the 7th level territory, there is no need to be so anxious. You can use some of the extra resources to draw heroes first. He made a decision in his heart. At this time, Qin Feng also waved his hand and let Qin Dali do what he should do. And then, there was no go directly to the hero altar. Instead, open the package. Before drawing a hero, you naturally have to open the package first. After all, if you are lucky enough, directly draw a high-level hero recruitment scroll, wouldn't it save a lot of resources? At this moment, inside the package, 3 treasure chests came into view. Super Competition Treasure Chest. Like the treasure chests in the previous competition, the average reward reached SS level. There is even a chance to open SR level items. However, compared with the last time, this time, the number of treasure chests is as many as 3. Rub your hands. Qin Feng's eyes lit up. Today's luck seems to be good. Quote, the orchards have all produced mysterious fruits. Next, it's time to witness the miracle. Muttering to himself, Qin Feng directly chose to open the first treasure chest. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the Yanyang Shenzhou SSS. The first prompt sounded. The corners of Qin Feng's mouth instantly rose. This luck is really unmatched. He never expected that the first box would open an SSS level item. And it was a vehicle. He was surprised. Inside the package, a small boat as red as fire also emerged. The detection technique was released. Yanyang Shenzhou. Grade: SSS. Sumeru size. Shenzhou can change its size, up to 500 meters long, 200 meters wide, and 150 meters high. Yanyang artillery. Shenzhou has a total of 8 Yanyang artillery cannon, after putting in spirit stones, can be charged and released, causing a blow equivalent to that of a peak 8th level strongman covering a range of 300 meters. Flame power. Consume spirit stones to drive. The ferry boat can fly, divided into 4 gears, low speed, medium speed, high speed, and extreme speed. Each gear has different speeds and different consumption. Flame shield. The ferry boat can release a flame shield to resist external attacks. Depending on the intensity of the attack, it consumes different amounts of spirit stones, and can resist up to 9th level attacks. After reading the message, Qin Feng smiled even more brightly. This is also a flying vehicle. It can be called a war weapon. With its size, it can carry more than thousands of soldiers. And it has its own firepower. Not only can it provide rapid support, but it can also provide firepower coverage. It greatly increases mobility. Vehicles. In the later war form, it is an extremely important link. After all, although with the improvement of the level, the strength of the soldiers continues to increase, and it is not a problem to travel thousands of miles a day, tens of thousands of miles, or even more. But 100,000 such soldiers. You can't let them run away by themselves, right? This will definitely be extremely chaotic. But if you want to ensure that the formation is not chaotic, then the speed will definitely be greatly affected. In this case, having a vehicle, and a vehicle that can transport personnel on a large scale, can solve this problem better. Moreover, the treasure chest at this moment is still an aerospace vehicle, which is the most mobile type. So, we can consider continuing to attack the other leaders on both sides. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a gleam of light. Before, he stopped expanding to both sides because the road was inconvenient. But now, with the Yanyang arc, this is no longer a problem. But maybe it's not that simple, Qin Feng murmured at this time. Because, his next plan is to move the entire territory to the Grey Fog area. At that time, perhaps they will first face the threat from the Green Mountain elves. Let's talk about 390 later. Shake his head. Stop thinking about it. At this time, Qin Feng looked at the treasure chest in the package again. Continue. As he spoke, the second treasure chest was opened. In the flickering light, a token floated out. Then, it disappeared and entered the package. And a prompt sound rang in Qin Feng's mind. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the Legendary Hero Recruitment Order. Legendary Hero Recruitment Order. Rank: SSS. Description: after using this token, you can directly recruit a Legendary Hero unit. Currently available. Do you want to use it? Qin Feng widened his eyes, looking surprised. Surprisingly, it really came out. Def. Is today's luck so explosive? While sighing, Qin Feng did not rush to recruit. Instead, he opened the third treasure chest. Ding! Congratulations on getting the Professional Training Scroll. A pleasant reminder sounded. Qin Feng's expression froze slightly, and then he laughed bitterly. Luck, gone. Hey, but this thing is okay. At least it can improve my strength a little bit. It just so happens that I am just an S-level profession. Qin Feng sighed lightly, but did not hesitate to take out the scroll directly. Professional Training Scroll. Grade: SS. Description: after use, the professional level can be increased by 1 level, the upper limit is SS level. In short, it is a thing that can upgrade the S-level profession to the SS-level profession at the highest. No doubt, Qin Feng directly chose to use it himself. As the scroll was torn, mysterious power was infused throughout the body. Strands of undead power raged in the body again, just like at the beginning, wanting to completely transform the body. However, with the experience from last time, Qin Feng quickly controlled these energies and gathered them into his eyes again. More power of the undead. Immediately, a prompt sound rang out. Ding! Your skill Eye of Death has been upgraded to Eye of Annihilation, S. The skill has been upgraded, and the effect is naturally stronger than before. The previous Eye of Death was more effective in mental attacks. But now, it can directly release the beam of annihilation to annihilate the enemy's life history. However, the transformation at this time is not over yet. Then, another prompt sound rang out. Ding! Your profession has been upgraded to Undead Archmage. S-level profession, upgraded to SS-level profession. However, the overall skill set has not changed much. Most of them have been enhanced on the original basis. It's better than nothing. Qin Feng made such an evaluation. He didn't say this out of the blue. In fact, at present, Qin Feng has not used the skills of the necromancer. The grade is relatively low. However, Qin Feng didn't care. It's better to have more skills. And it's useless now, but it doesn't mean it will be useless in the future. The necromancer profession itself is not a very powerful type in the early stage. It would be great if I could get a forbidden technique. Qin Feng muttered at this time. The so-called forbidden techniques are at least SSS level or above. The most famous forbidden techniques of the necromancer are Natural Scourge of the Undead and Resurrection of the Dead. The former opens the portal to the world of the dead, and a steady stream of undeads pour out in a short period of time. One person can form an army. The latter can revive dead bodies and turn them into undead, which is also a similar effect. One person turns the tide. Of course, there are no weak forbidden skills, such as the fire system's Skyfire burning the city, the ice system's Absolute Zero, etc. They all have super destructive power, or a more advanced skill. Qin Feng thought, and simply opened the trading channel to scan around. Skills. There are quite a few. However, the highest quality is only dollar level. And the price is ridiculous, a full 150,000 resource points. Forget it, let's talk about it later. Qin Feng closed the trading channel. At this time, he finally took out the recruitment token. In terms of quality, the token has been fixed. All he expects is, come on, a female hero. Preferably a queen. Slim waist, big boobs, long legs. Qin Feng did not hide his thoughts and murmured, as a lord, what are you fighting for? Among them, isn't this a factor? There is nothing to hide. Food, girls, and nature. They are all normal desires. While mumbling, Qin Feng chose to use the token. The next moment, a prompt sounded. Ding, congratulations on recruiting SSS level hero, Fire Phoenix Sword Fairy Yan Ji. As the sound rang out, in front of him, a white light appeared. Indistinctly, a graceful figure has appeared. Qin Feng was slightly excited. It's really here. He looked at the figure with burning eyes. She was about 1.7 meters tall, but her figure was hot and scary, especially her perky buttocks, which were extremely round. With anticipation in his heart, finally, the white light dissipated. The beauty finally came into his sight. Her long red hair was draped over her shoulders, and her phoenix eyes were narrow and long, making her look cold and noble. Her waist was slender, her buttocks were plump, and her branches were full of fruits. This was Qin Feng's first impression. He was a little absent-minded. At this time, a slightly indifferent voice sounded, Yan Ji, meet the Lord. Hearing this, Qin Feng finally came back to his senses. Immediately, he adjusted his mentality. He nodded slightly. This will be your home from now on. Well, take these fruits and eat them. Yan Ji nodded slightly when she heard this. When she felt the essence of energy from the experience fruit, she said respectfully, thank you, Lord. At the same time, a reminder sound of favorability plus 20 sounded. Soon, a lot of experience fruits accumulated were taken by her. Yan Ji's level, at this time, also rose to level 60. At this time, Qin Feng also called out again, Daisy. Soon, a flash of lightning flashed. It turned out that Daisy had come to him and asked curiously, Lord, what do you want? Who is she? Qin Feng smiled and explained. The new hero of the territory is named Yan Ji. Take Yan Ji with you and get familiar with the territory. After saying that, he looked at Yan Ji and said, next, follow Daisy. She is also a hero of the territory. Yan Ji looked at Daisy after hearing that. A hint of uncertainty flashed in her eyes. But she nodded slightly. The two women left. At this time, Qin Feng finally grinned. She is indeed a cold and arrogant lady. However, she has just been recruited, so we can't be impatient. Let's take a look at her information first. Thinking in his heart, Qin Feng opened the Lord panel. Yan Ji, level 60, talent, Flame Phoenix Spirit SS. Skills, Sun Wheel Sword Cannon SS Reorganization $S. Skills, Sun Wheel Sword Method 9 Styles, Flame Phoenix True Fire, Red Flame Heavenly Heart Sword. Combat rating, 80. It's almost the same as expected. Basically, it's all SS plus SSS level configuration, which is as large as the legendary level. Supreme level, I guess it really needs a double SSS configuration. But this wave of luck is really good. It's actually a hero of the cultivation system, and a sword cultivator. Speaking of which, the attack strength of sword cultivators is the best in other systems. Quote, Yan Ji is also a fire swordsman. Her attack strength may be outstanding, right? Qin Feng touched his chin and was thinking about it. At this time, in the distance, a flash of lightning and flames intertwined. And accompanied by a loud roar, Qin Feng suddenly came back to his senses. What's going on? Qin Feng was shocked and said in his heart, isn't it that the territory has been invaded? But then he thought about it, this is impossible, he has deployed troops in the Grey Fog area. If there is a fight, the Grey Fog area will be attacked first, and he should have received a prompt earlier. Fire and thunder, could it be? Qin Feng's scalp numbed instantly, and he immediately jumped and rushed towards the place where the roar came from. Soon, when he came close, looking at the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but muttered, it's true. Qin Feng stroked his forehead with his hand, with a speechless expression on his face. At this moment, in a relatively open place in the territory, two figures were floating in the air at this moment, confronting each other across hundreds of meters. And the two people were Daisy and Yan Ji. On one side, there was a raging fire, and on the other side, there were bursts of lightning. This made Qin Feng couldn't help but mutter, why are these two girls fighting? Just as he was talking to himself. At this time, the two fought again. It was Yanji who took the initiative to attack. Sun Wheel Sword Art, the third style, Flare. In the cold and high shout, the red long sword in his hand suddenly turned in the void. Above the sky, a point of light suddenly appeared. Then, from these red spots, a ray of light suddenly shot out. Daisy's eyebrows raised at this time, raised her hand, and waved the staff. Thunder Shield. The thunder gathered and formed a thick shield, blocking all the beams that shot down. Then, he immediately counterattacked without giving in. Thunder Snake Spear. Likewise, Yanji was not afraid at all and waved her sword again. Sun Wheel Sword Technique. The fourth style, Sunlight Dance. Swish, swish, swish. The long sword slashed, and in an instant, dozens of swords were slashed out. Strands of red sword light, impenetrable, intercepted the attacking spears. In the distance, Qin Feng watched this scene. What are you doing? He felt a little overwhelmed, watching the two women's attacks becoming more and more fierce, and it was obvious that they were serious. At this time, Qin Feng connected. The next moment, the figure suddenly appeared between the two women, facing the attack coming towards him. Qin Feng did not dare to be careless. After all, this was the attack of two legendary heroes. Immediately, the human emperor robe was instantly added to his body, and at the same time he took a deep breath and mobilized the energy in his body. Shinra Tensai. The powerful repulsive force suddenly spread to the surroundings. However, the intensity of the two women's attacks was equally strong. It was visible to the naked eye. The defensive shield formed by the repulsive force was gradually torn apart. Qin Feng's eyelids jumped. He secretly said that it was not good. The attacks of the two legends are really not so easy to resist. Sure enough, the next moment, the repulsive force could not completely block the two attacks. It directly tore the protective circle apart. Fortunately, Qin Feng was also prepared for this. Immediately, the body on top, a layer of armor made of bones suddenly condensed. This is the skill of the Undead Master, Dead Bone Armor, which is S level and its defense is not too weak. However, even so, when the remaining power of the two attacks dissipated, the bone armor was also broken. Even some areas have been penetrated. The remaining power, however, could not cause any harm to Qin Feng through the human emperor robe. But it was inevitable to be covered in dirt. Qin Feng's face at this time, the dark eyes looked at the two women and said, how about you two continue? Can you kill me? The two women were already panicking when Qin Feng entered the venue. At this moment, after hearing Qin Feng's words, they seemed even more guilty. Daisy flashed and came to Qin Feng's side, whispering, Lord, are you okay? Yanji also came quickly, lowered her head slightly, but did not speak. Qin Feng snorted coldly, I'm fine. But if you come a little later, I'm afraid you will have to demolish the territory. Tell me, what's going on? Daisy heard the words and immediately glared at Sister Yan and said, she took the initiative to find trouble. Qin Feng looked at Yanji. Yanji narrowed her eyes, did not deny, and said, I took the initiative. But I didn't pick a fight. Daisy was indignant, with her hands on her hips, you're not picking a fight. Seeing that the two women were about to quarrel again, Qin Feng hurriedly stood in the middle and said, stop, stop, stop. All of you, just be quiet. Daisy, tell me, what's going on? Daisy heard this, a little aggrieved. My lord, didn't you ask me to take her to familiarize herself with the territory? I just took her around. It was fine at first, but suddenly she provoked me. What do you mean, the lord doesn't need trash around him? And then she asked me directly, asking if I was trash. How can this be tolerated? Qin Feng heard this and probably understood. He looked at Yanji again. Yanji still had an indifferent expression. What I said was right. But, through the battle just now, you are indeed not a waste. I recognize you. Daisy gritted her teeth. Bah, do I need your recognition? It's enough if the Lord recognizes me. Qin Feng was even more confused at this time. He had a rough idea of what kind of personality Yanji had. After thinking for a while, he said, there's nothing to make a fuss about. In the territory, I decide the appointment of heroes. Yanji, if you are dissatisfied with this, then you are dissatisfied with me. Are you dissatisfied with me? Yanji heard this, and a trace of panic flashed in her eyes, and she hurriedly said, I dare not. Qin Feng nodded and said, and, even if Daisy is weaker than you can't do this. After all, she has been with me from the beginning when I was weak. What you need to do is not to disapprove of your companions, but to integrate into them. Other hero units are weaker than you, and you have to help each other. We are a big family. It took more than 10 minutes to talk about the whole thing. Qin Feng was a little dry in the mouth. Fortunately. Finally, both parties were appeased. Looking at the two women who were gradually calming down, Qin Feng thought about it and did not let Daisy take them to familiarize themselves with the territory. Instead, he accompanied them himself. In this way, after walking around the entire territory, it was already noon. Back to the mansion, just planning to take a nap and rest. At this time, a reminder sounded. Ding, all conditions for upgrading the territory have been met. This is a reminder specially set by Qin Feng. And at this moment, listening to the sound coming from his ears, Qin Feng, who had just been lying down, sat up again. Forget it, let's get things done together. While speaking, Qin Feng came to the outside of the mansion. He did not choose to upgrade directly. Instead, he dispatched some of his soldiers to the outpost camp in the Grey Fog Zone to reinforce and garrison. The reason? It is not complicated. Because, the area of the 7th level territory will expand to 30 kilometers times 30 kilometers, that is, 900 square kilometers. This area has exceeded the newcomer area. The subsequent area will expand directly to the Grey Fog Zone. The defense line will naturally expand outward. When all the personnel are in place, Qin Feng opened the Lord panel. Upgrade. As the order was issued, the mansion in front of him was immediately shrouded in white light. After a moment of waiting, finally, a prompt sound came at this moment, resounded. Ding, your territory has been upgraded to level 7. Ding, your territory has expanded to 900 square kilometers. Ding, you have unlocked a new permission, Lord Call. Ding, you have unlocked a new building, small teleportation array, spiritual martial arts training ground. Ding, you have obtained a new miracle building, Hall of Heroes. The prompt sounded. Qin Feng looked at the conditions for the next level of territory upgrade as usual. 8th level territory upgrade requirements. Territory exploration and control area, 10,000 square kilometers. Total territory population 487, 30,000 people. Total number of territory buildings, greater than 500. Territory building level, all level 7. Resource consumption, 5 million resources. Looking at the upgrade conditions, even if he had been prepared, Qin Feng took a breath. Some have been accumulated. I don't know if I can reach the 8th level territory before the final assessment. Moreover, the area under exploration and control is as large as 10,000 square kilometers. The current exploration is not enough. It seems that there will be a conflict with the elves of Kashan. Qin Feng sighed in his heart. For now, his control over the Grey Fog Zone. It is about 60 kilometers wide. The depth is about 20 kilometers. This is obviously not enough to upgrade to a level 8 territory. 10,000 square kilometers is 100 kilometers long and wide. In this case, either continue to expand to both sides. But this is not very realistic, because the width of the two sides needs to be 500 kilometers wide at the current depth. This width is not conducive to control at all. Both supplies and support are too far away. And the narrow territory may face more threats. After all, there is a Kashan elf on the west side of this area. With a width of 500 kilometers, there must be more than one wild force on the west side. Move forward. We only need to deal with the Green Mountain elves. It is easier to deal with other heavenly lords if we push forward to both sides. But there will be more wild forces in the west. We can only push forward. Qin Feng muttered in his heart, and at this time, he opened the panel. After all, expansion is a follow-up. Now we still have to take a look at the new buildings in the upgraded territory. Lord panel, in the building list. 2 new buildings. Small teleportation array. Area, 5x5. Description. Short distance teleportation is possible, with a maximum teleportation distance of 100 kilometers. Note. Teleportation nodes need to be arranged. Teleportation consumption, 50 spirit stones. Construction consumption, 10,000 resources. After looking at the first building, Qin Feng couldn't help but pout. This price is really expensive. The introduction was very clear. It is only 5 times 5 in area. That is, the size of 25 square meters. Probably, only a few dozen humanoid soldiers can be teleported at one time. And the need for a teleportation node means that a teleportation array is also needed at the other end to receive it. In other words, this thing needs at least 2 to start. At the same time, each teleportation consumes 50 spirit stones, which is equivalent to 1,500 resources. However, the functionality of this thing is very high. Teleportation, 100 miles in an instant. If something happens, some troops can be deployed in a very short time for support. But it's not necessary now. When resources are sufficient later, we still have to build dozens of them. Muttered, looking at the second building. Spiritual martial arts training ground. Size, 9 square kilometers, 3 kilometers long and wide. Description. It can be used for soldiers to conduct war confrontation simulation exercises and combat. Note, the exercises can improve the coordination ability of soldiers, and can be used to train the battle factory. Attached battle formation. Black Tiger battle formation. Construction cost, 150,000 resources. Qin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. Surprisingly, a chariot is attached. But the grade is too low. Qin Feng shook his head, and the information of the battle formation was already printed in his eyes. Black Tiger battle formation. Grade C. Description. A minimum of 100 people are required to form a battle formation. After forming it, you can condense a Black Tiger phantom with momentum and energy to fight. Formation personnel required. None. Note, the more people who build the battle formation, the stronger the Black Tiger's combat power. Battle formation. This is a way for ordinary soldiers to fight against high-level units. It is similar to the formation of cultivators. But the requirements are lower, and most ordinary soldiers can do it. After the formation is formed, the power of the condensed product will be the sum of the strength of these soldiers. High-level battle formations are even more than that, and can absorb the power of heaven and earth to strengthen their strength. 10,000 troops form a formation. Even if they are just ordinary units, they can fight against legends. However, the more people there are, the more difficult it is to form a formation. It requires long-term training and cooperation. The Lingwu training ground can provide this condition. It will absorb the surrounding spiritual power to speed up the recovery speed of the training soldiers. At the same time, if it is wide enough, the ground inside can be repaired automatically even if it is damaged. Unlike the outside world, once it is destroyed, there will be a pit in the east and a hole in the west. Good stuff. If you have the resources, build it immediately. Qin Feng listed it in the list that needs to be built as soon as possible. After the 2 territories were upgraded, the attached building information was read. At this time, Qin Feng also looked at the miracle building. This was what he was looking forward to the most. He looked at the building. This was also a palace. However, compared with the human emperor palace, the palace in front of him was less noble and luxurious. The whole body was blue-gray in color, looking solemn and dignified. Hall of Heroes. Rank, SSS. Description. Heroes live forever and are immortal. Effect 1. Once all soldiers in the territory die in battle, their souls will not fall into reincarnation, but will be transformed into heroes and enter the hall. Effect 2. Heroes are divided into 5 levels: ordinary, 100 generations, 1,000 years, eternity, immortality, and eternity. According to their contributions during their lifetime, they can obtain different seats, which will provide additional bonuses. When foreign enemies invade, they can appear to assist in the battle, but they will soon die after leaving the Hall of Heroes. Effect 3. Heroes inherit. Heroes can choose soldiers in the territory to inherit their professional skills. Effect 4. Heroes are immortal, and can be resurrected through the reincarnation pool by consuming certain resources later. Qin Feng was slightly stunned. Then, the whole person smiled. Because, although this Hall of Heroes does not seem to directly improve the strength of the territory, but its potential incentive is not small. First of all, the first ability is that soldiers who died in battle will not fall into reincarnation directly. Meaning, death is not the real end. Instead, they can still exist in the state of soul. What does this mean? It means that if the soldiers know this, their morale will be greatly improved. To be truly fearless and fearless. This is an extremely terrifying thing. You know, even if the morale of Qin Feng's soldiers will not decrease, it does not mean that they are not afraid of death. The morale will not decrease, but it only means that they will fight to the last moment. But as the number of teammates around them decreases, they will still be afraid in their hearts. Now, this problem has been solved directly. The second ability is of the defensive type. The heroes can appear and fight at the critical moment of the territory. However, the price paid is slightly higher, and the soul will be permanently erased. But correspondingly, if the accumulation time is long enough, the number of heroes in the Hall of Heroes is large enough. How terrible is the defensive ability brought by this? After several years, in the Hall of Heroes, hundreds of millions of heroes come out together, who can capture the territory. As for the third effect, it is also practical. For example, a holy knight under Qin Feng died. But he can pass on this profession to other territory king soldiers. This can ensure that the high-level troops in the territory will never be out of stock. Of course, after the inheritance, the hero will also lose the profession. Even if it is revealed later, the combat power will naturally be greatly reduced. And the fourth ability. This is what makes Qin Feng most excited. Samsara Pool. Resurrection. Just these two words, how great is the meaning revealed? You know. In the endless world, the props that can be resurrected are at least SSS level. The races with this ability are extremely rare. Only super races such as Suzaku and Phoenix may have this ability. According to the information description of the fourth effect, in the subsequent miracle buildings, there will be existence with such abilities. Although, it seems that a certain amount of resources must be paid as a price. But this is already amazing enough. At least, if some of the hero units under his command fall, there is room for rebirth. Amazing in his heart. At this time, Qin Feng also built the building without hesitation. The area is also not small. The area is 500 meters long and wide, even larger than the human emperor palace we passed. Fortunately, the current territory is wide enough. Such an area can be accommodated. The territory is level 7. Tomorrow, we can conduct an investigation on Kashan. And it's time to spread the focus of development to the Grey Fog area. Including the several lords who belong to it, they should also be sent out. After all, the resources in the novice area are not so abundant. The current high-end combat power should not be inferior to Kashan. After the territory was upgraded, Qin Feng was too lazy to take a nap at this time. Instead, he thought about the subsequent plans. Just as he said. At this moment, as the territory was upgraded to level 7. Similarly, Qin Feng himself, as well as the 3 heroes under his command, the 4 spirit guards, and the recruited soldiers, have all increased their level caps. Among them, Daisy, Qin Dali, Yan Ji, and Qin Feng all looked at it. Except for Yan Ji, Qin Dali and Daisy all had enough experience. At the moment of the territory breakthrough, they were promoted to level 70. The current combat power rating of the two has directly jumped a level. From the previous level 80, it has been promoted to level 90. The combat power rating of the 9th level peak. It is definitely enough. After all, the location at this moment is still the outer area of the Grey Fog Zone. It is obtained, it has not gone too deep and is still far from the center. The possibility of a combat unit above level 10 appearing in this area is almost zero. The original Jiaolong Wuyu appeared in the outer area, which was purely accidental. She herself was one of the overlords in the core area. Later, in order to break through safely, she came to the outer area. According to Wu Yu, the length and width of this Qingshan area are both more than 1,500 kilometers. Among them, the outer area is 300 kilometers, the inner area is 300 kilometers, and the core is 300 kilometers. The outer 300 kilometers is actually 300 kilometers left and right, up and down, and the depth is actually 600 kilometers. The inner circle is the same. The core area is a circle, so it is 1500 kilometers. The power and strength of each area have increased. But basically, only the core area will have 10 level existence. Moreover, once Yanji's level is upgraded, she will also have such combat power. In addition, she is also at this level of combat power. It is equivalent to that the territory now has 4 peak 9th level combat power. Other legendary soldiers are basically above the 8th level late stage combat power. A group of epic blood demons have also crossed the 8th level. If the blessing of the Emperor is added, it can even pull out hundreds of 9th level early stage combat power soldiers in a short period of time. Almost all members can have the combat power of level 9. Qin Feng feels that if it is not high-end combat power, there is indeed no level 10 strongman. Even, it is estimated that they can clash with the wild forces in the core area. However, level 10 combat power, it is difficult to have it in a short time. After all, under the level 7 territory, the level of heroes such as Daisy has reached the limit. If you want to break through the combat power, there are only 2 possibilities. Either, the territory is level 8 and the level cap is increased. Or, the grade is promoted to become a supreme hero. But these two, no matter which one, are extremely difficult. It is not so easy to achieve. It's me. Maybe I can temporarily compete with the 10th level combat power. Qin Feng's eyes flickered. Level 7. He has now unlocked the last power of the Samsara Eye, the Outer Way. At the same time, he has obtained a forbidden skill, the Samsara Natural Technique. However, this skill, in Qin Feng's opinion, is useless. This thing needs to sacrifice its own life to revive the killed unit. Unless he is also persuaded by the mouth, the probability of using this trick is 0. He is not so selfless. However, this is not the key point. The key point is, after the activation of the power of the Outer Way, the power of reincarnation in his body has increased again. As a result, his strength has now reached a rating of 90. This is not much different from Daisy and others. But on this basis, he has SSS level weapons and armor. Moreover, there is more than one weapon. If the combat power is calculated, the Heavenly Dao clone, the Bull Demon clone, etc. must be counted. All-round development, plus the assistance of the clone. It is really possible to fight against the 10th level. After thinking about it in his mind. 453. At this time, Qin Feng opened his personal panel again. Then, directly opened the Lord map. On the map, at this moment, the area that has been occupied is displayed. Probably, the gray fog zone is 60 kilometers horizontally and 25 kilometers deep. It's time to move the territory. Qin Feng murmured, and then he began to move. This process is not complicated, but it is also time-consuming. After all, Qin Feng needs to re-establish his building position and plan the territory shape at the same time. After more than a few hours of operation, finally, everything is ready. The territory has now been completely moved out of the novice area. The shape is approximately a rectangle. Needless to say, the width extends directly to the cliffs on both sides, making the width as large as 60 kilometers. Naturally, and the depth is 15 kilometers. In this way, the territory is exactly 900 square kilometers in size. And on this basis, at this time, Qin Feng also used the Lord's Heart obtained from the previous expedition to build a full 8 camps. Among them, 4 frontline camps. These 4 camps are set up 15 kilometers apart, close to the direction of the Eternal Wall Kashan. After all, the current state of the territory is 60 kilometers wide. With such a width, it is natural to build a camp and store troops inside. As for the previous outpost camp, Qin Feng used it as a supply point and a mobile camp. In addition, Qin Feng also built 4 resource camps in places where resources are relatively dense, CCBI. According to estimates, these 4 camps have collected all the nearby resources, enough to obtain more than 2 million resources. At the same time, Qin Feng also asked 2 subordinate lords and 3 surrendered lords to move the territory to the Grey Fog Zone, which is also located at 2 points where resources are relatively concentrated. This is equivalent to the Grey Zone now having a total of 7 resource points that can be mined. Moreover, in each territory, there are at least 3 to 5 intermediate or higher resource points around the camp. Qin Feng roughly evaluated it. The daily income in the future will be able to reach 400,000 - 500,000 resource points. If this continues, maybe, I can really upgrade to the 8th level territory before the final assessment of newcomers. Qin Feng is looking forward to this. The final assessment, the 8th level territory, if this goal can be achieved. He will have full confidence to enter the Hidden Dragon list. And the ranking will definitely not be low. Just like this, as all the plans are completed. The territory was also like this. Under the white light, the buildings began to move. Miraculous buildings were located in the center of the territory, forming a prosperous central area, surrounding the Lord's mansion. A circle outside, there were houses, forming a residential area. Another circle outside, there were various work buildings. This was Qin Feng's plan for future city construction. Outer defense line, inner work area, and then inner residential area, until the prosperous area in the center. At the same time, also began to move, there were a group of lords under his command. Then, these lords were stunned. It was their first time to enter Qin Feng's territory. Moreover, because Qin Feng arranged it closer to the periphery, the first sight was shocked by the towering city wall that was nearly 50 meters high. What is this? Oh my god, is our master so powerful? Nonsense, we won the battle with the Kalia Alliance last time. I know, but I was just guessing before. Now I see it. Can the feeling be the same? Everyone was amazed. Then, they saw other buildings. And then they saw the soldiers patrolling or stationed in the camp. It was even more confusing. Blood Demon War, a full-scale Blood Demon War. Holy Night, oh my god, they were amazed again and again. A lord said at this time, I chose to surrender because of the situation. I originally thought that this life would be dark and that would be it. Now it seems that this is a big deal. Another lord who surrendered echoed, yes, Lord Qin Feng, you can definitely build a city and even achieve the throne. By then, even if we surrender to the Lord, we can benefit from it. The fire spirit, one of the subordinate lords, was now full of flames, as if jumping up, representing his great enthusiasm. Then I am just a subordinate lord, wouldn't my potential be greater? Another subordinate lord, Zhao Tian of the human race, also sighed softly at this time, Lord Qin Feng, you are not an ordinary person. Amid the amazement of the subordinate lords, the relocation gradually came to an end. After doing all this, Qin Feng couldn't help but say, finally, I'm done. Next, in the short term, the territory doesn't have to toss anymore. Moreover, the current concentration of spiritual power is also enough to maintain the operation of the territory. Quote, and, there are about 2,000 more spiritual stones produced every day. Unfortunately, the recycling price of this thing has been cut in half, and the price of each piece is only 10 resources. Qin Feng curled his lips, a little speechless. However, it's not boring. If you don't rely on the way of heaven to recycle this thing, you can only sell it yourself. Most of the ordinary resources are not bought by anyone. It can be said that there is basically no choice. Moreover, selling it in the trading house is a waste of time. However, Qin Feng does not plan to sell these spiritual stones. After all, the development route of the road of cultivation itself also needs to consume this thing. The excess output is accumulated for emergency use. Next, tomorrow, go to explore the situation in the direction of Kashan. Qin Feng was thinking at this time. However, at this time, a figure came from the front. He was riding a holy light unicorn, and it was the holy knight under his command. Watching the other party coming quickly, Tiandao was a little confused, because he had already dispatched this holy knight team to the frontline camp. Could it be that something happened? While muttering, at this time, the figure had arrived. He turned over and dismounted, and in one go, he also said, Lord, the group of elves on Kashan seems to be ready to move. Commander Dali asked me to come and report. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Then he said, okay, I know about this. You go back to the frontline camp first. The knight nodded, got on the horse, and left quickly. In the 4 camps on the front line, Qin Feng appointed the commanders respectively. Among them, the leftmost is the Bull Demon clone, the second from the left is Qin Dali, the second from the right is the Beast King clone, and the right is the Tiandao clone. As for Daisy, Humei, Yanji and other women, Qin Feng did not choose to send them to the front line. The reason is also very simple, to add fun to nightlife. At this moment, after receiving the message, Qin Feng's mind moved at this time, and he directly attached himself to Qin Yinli with the soul eye. At the same time, he transmitted the voice, "What's the situation?" Qin Dali was just slightly stunned, and then responded, "Sir, there seem to be elves in the woods ahead." "There are quite a few, at least hundreds." Qin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this, and sneered in his heart, "Have you discovered the situation here so quickly? Are you preparing to attack?" After thinking about it, Qin Feng transmitted the voice at this time, "Don't take the initiative to attack them first, let's see what they want to do. I will mobilize some people from the mobile camp to this side in a while." Qin Feng had never expected that the Kashan elves would react so quickly. However, since he had moved his territory, he had naturally prepared for the situation. Switching back to the main body was already in the mobile camp. Qin Feng did not leave too many troops in the mobile camp. After all, although it was already a level 7 territory, it had just been upgraded and had not yet been replenished. The standard of troops did not reach the level 7 standard. Normally, the troop configuration of the territory should reach 1/10 of the total population, and the regiment was considered a high standard. That is, for a level 6 territory with a population of 3,000, there should be more than 300 troops. For a level 7 territory with a population of 10,000, there should be more than 1,000 troops. Of course, this is just a general standard. The specific development strategies and defense pressures of each territory are different. If you take the elite route, the number of soldiers will naturally be smaller. If the pressure on the defense line is not great, the area to be deployed is small, and there is no need for so many soldiers. But it is obvious, at this moment, the defense line of the territory is still under great pressure. The width reaches a full 60 kilometers. There must be more than one wild force like the Green Mountain elves in the mountains ahead. However, the total number of soldiers in the territory is less than 500. There are 4 camps on the front line. Each camp is only assigned 50 blood demons and more than 20 frost wizards. In addition, there are some high-level soldiers, which are assigned separately. Basically, the personnel of each frontline camp are less than 100 people now. But even so, those who can stay in the transit camp are some giant tree people, the 4 spirit guards, and some light Shen cavalry recruited before. Among them, Qin Feng did not even regard the giant tree people as combat units. Instead, he planned to use them to transport supplies. After thinking about it, Qin Feng decided to go to the frontline camp in person. Soon, under his order, more than 30 light-armored cavalrymen, Qin Feng himself, as well as the 4 spirit guards, Daisy, and Yanji, all went to the front line. Although the number of people is not large, but there are many high-end combat forces among them. Soon, galloping all the way, Qin Feng rushed to the frontline camp. At this moment, there are not many people in the camp. Most of the people have gone to the Eternal Wall to garrison. The remaining ones are just some soldiers who are taking turns to rest. Qin Feng did not enter the camp, but came directly to the city wall. Soon, Qin Dali trotted over, looked at Qin Feng and said, "Heavenly man. It's in that dense forest." Quote. Qin Feng looked in the direction of Qin Dali's finger. In the dense forest below the Green Mountain, many figures could be vaguely seen. What are these elves doing? Qin Feng was a little confused. He felt that these elves did not seem to be attacking. Otherwise, they could just attack directly, and there was no need to waste time. After all, they were already clearly exposed. If they delayed any further, wouldn't it be giving themselves time to reinforce? But at the same time, the other party's situation did not seem to be just peeping and monitoring. Because there are many figures in the dense forest, at least more than 100 people. To monitor this place, there is no need for so many people. With doubts in his heart, Qin Feng simply strode to the top of the city and said, "The elves on the opposite side. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to fight, please retreat quickly." As Qin Feng's words fell, soon, in the dense forest, a figure jumped onto the big tree in front. It was a female elf with a very good figure wearing a grass skirt. At this time, she responded, "This is the leader of the Heavenly Tao. I am the commander of the first combat camp of Kashan, Tina. We are here on the order of the Lord to negotiate with you." Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. Negotiation, what to talk about? Tina replied. Cooperation. Qin Feng smiled at this time and said directly, although I don't know what kind of cooperation you want to talk about. But I'm sorry, I can tell you clearly. You can talk if you want. But we don't talk about cooperation, we only talk about submission and belonging. The words fell. At this time, Tina's answer was unexpected. Okay. This answer was something Qin Feng had never thought of. He thought about it. The other party might get angry out of shame. I have thought about it. The other party even went to war directly. At worst, maybe I would consider it. But agreed directly. This time, Qin Feng was speechless for a while. After several seconds, he said, Does your lord know that you did this? Who knows? Tina's answer continued to be decisive and firm. It was my lord's instruction. However, if you want to talk about affiliation, then the way of talking will be different. Qin Feng became interested and said, What's different? Tina's voice was decisive and firm. You need to prove your strength. The strength that makes us willing to submit. Of course, in fact, I hope to talk to you face to face, rather than talking across such a distance. However, if you are afraid of danger, it doesn't matter. Qin Feng heard this and laughed at this time. He naturally knew that this was a provocation. However, he still chose to let the other party enter the territory and talk at close range. This is the confidence in one's own strength. A lord, a king, needs this kind of courage. Throughout thousands of years of history, a truly powerful king is never afraid of this so-called interview. Soon, several elves entered the territory from the open city gate. As everyone entered, obviously, they were also shocked by the eternal wall. Eyes, constantly looking at the towering city wall. After all, from the outside, from a distance, although you can see the height of the city wall. But where is the direct feeling below it? After a while. In the camp, Qin Feng sat at the top of the tent. On both sides were Daisy and Yanji. Behind, stood the 4 spirit guards. As several elves entered the tent, Qin Feng also looked at several people. The leader was naturally Tina. This is a very beautiful elf woman, with a graceful figure, white skin like snow, and light green eyes, which makes her look quite charming. Following behind her, there are a total of 5 people. Among them, there are 3 women and 2 men. As he looked around, Qin Feng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The elves are indeed good-looking men and beautiful women. In terms of appearance, each of the negotiation team in front of him is above the standard. In the previous life, the worst one was the class flower. And it was a music school class, not a CNC machine tool class. However, Qin Feng's real purpose of observing everyone was naturally not to pay attention to their appearance. In the morning, he saw Yan Ji was a little absent-minded, because he was in his own territory and there was nothing else to do, so he was relaxed. And now, it is obvious that there is something to discuss, so Qin Feng will not be blinded by lust. Not to mention Tina's appearance, it is only considered to be above average. Even if it is a top-notch one, she even took off her clothes. Qin Feng also knows what to do when it's time to do business. At this moment, he looked around the crowd. He already knew the attributes of the 6 people in total. Among the 6 people, Tina is the strongest. Her level has reached 76, the epic level. The total combat power rating has reached 84. The other 5 people are also strong, with an average combat power of about 80. This Tina seems to be a camp commander. Her strength should not be weak in this elf territory. Qin Feng pondered this in his heart, and basically understood the overall strength of this wild camp. Not weak, but still within the scope of what can be handled. It is estimated that the strongest personnel will not exceed level 90. After having a plan in mind, Qin Feng also smiled at this time, pointing to the chairs on both sides and said, Sit down. Tina and others did not refuse after hearing this, and sat down directly under Qin Feng. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng also spoke again at this time, Tell me, what do you want to talk about? Why are you willing to cooperate? Even, are you willing to submit to me directly? Tina heard this, a gleam of light flashed in her eyes, and then she said, before saying these. I want to ask first, Lord Tiandao, do you know what the situation is in our area? Qin Feng did not hide anything when he heard this, and said directly, not too clear. I just know that the Kashan in front is occupied by a group of your elves. It is considered the largest force within a radius of dozens of miles. For the rest, forgive me for being blunt, my territory has developed too fast, and I have no time to explore it carefully. Including the several peaks next to Kashan, I have never explored them. Tina heard this and responded at this time, to tell the truth, Lord, now, the situation of our Kashan tribe is actually not very good. Chapter 91. Tina's words made Qin Feng slightly raise his eyebrows, but he was not surprised. After all, if it were not for this situation, the other party would not seek cooperation. Immediately, she said, tell me about it. Tina was not anxious at this time, but said slowly, before explaining the incident. We still need to tell the Lord about the general situation of our area. I believe that the Lord should know that our area is called Qingshan Mountain Range. The terrain of the mountain range is extremely beautiful. The surrounding areas are ups and downs, are blocked by rivers and swamps, or high and low peaks are scattered. Qin Feng nodded, indicating that she continued. Tina heard the words and continued. In our area, there are a total of 13 peaks connected to each other. In the back, it is the Blackwater River and the Lost Swamp, which cut off the connection with other peaks. Therefore, this 13 mountain area is considered an area. Quote, because these 13 peaks are centered on the Black Wind Mountain, they are also called the Black Mountain Zone. Qin Feng's eyes flickered slightly. This information is really something he has not mastered yet. Tina said at this time, of the 13 peaks, the location of the Kui Mountain Peak is the outermost. Qin Feng nodded. This is indeed the case. The peaks in the outer area of this mountain range are not arranged neatly. The area where Kui Mountain is located is indeed the outermost area of the Grey Fog Zone. I will make a map later, Tina continued. Originally, each of these 13 peaks had a wild force. Quote, however, since the year before last, the Black Wind Mountain began to expand and gradually annexed some of the other mountain forces. Quote, now, a tentative attack has been launched against Kui Mountain. Quote, the opponent's strength is very strong, so they come to you, the Lord, to seek cooperation. Quote, Qin Feng raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Why did you say before that you were willing to submit? There is no difference between submitting to me and submitting to the Black Wind Mountain, right? Tina smiled bitterly. There is a big difference. Because the Lord of the Black Wind Mountain is a Lich. If you are invaded by it, there is only one way to choose, that is, to become a dead spirit. It is obviously a better choice to submit to it, Lord. This is also the authorization given to me by the Lord. If you can show enough strength, it is not impossible for us to submit. Quote, Qin Feng finally understood after hearing this. Indeed. If the Lich is the Lord and is expanding, then it is normal to choose me. Especially for the elves, who worship nature and life, it is even more so. They will never tolerate being transformed into undead. Tina said slowly at this time, for this reason, I can tell the Lord. At present, there are more than 8,500 people in my territory. Among them, there are a total of 1,000 battle camps. Each camp has 300 combat units, and the average strength reaches level 7. And I am the commander of the first battle camp. The commanders of other battle camps are about the same as I want to be. Each camp has 5 deputy commanders, and their strength is comparable to the ones around me. In addition, the territory also has a 9th level peak. The war tree, with the strength of the peak, and the lord of the territory, Lord Tia, also have the strength of the late 9th level. Quote, and, in our territory, there is also a small team of about 10 mountain giants, which also have the strength of the middle 9th level. Quote, if Lord wants us to surrender, it is also very simple. Possessing, surpassing our strength, and not a little bit. And, I can tell Lord clearly that the Lich, after annexing the forces of the other 11 peaks. Now the total combat power is several times, or even 10 times that of our clan. And now it is planning to attack Kashan. Quote, so, if you don't have enough strength, then surrendering or not, it actually doesn't make sense. At the same time, I also hope that Lord can agree to some simple conditions for us. If all these can be met, I can immediately report back to the Lord of my clan and surrender to you. Quote, Qin Feng heard this and instantly understood. However, he was not in a hurry to show his strength. Instead, he said, let's talk about the simple conditions you mentioned first. Tina heard this and did not hesitate at this time. She opened her red lips and said, there are 3 conditions in total. The first condition is that I hope the Lord can treat the people of our tribe well. Qin Feng did not reply. And Tina continued at this time. The second condition is that since we have surrendered, we also hope that the Lord can send troops to jointly resist the invasion of the Lich Lord. Quote, the third condition is that I hope the Lord can choose a person of the opposite gender from our tribe and include him in the harem. The first 2 conditions. Qin Feng's expression was still quite calm. But after the third condition was proposed, Qin Feng couldn't hold it anymore. He said, I can accept the first condition. For those under my command, I only look at contributions and strength. Even if they are aliens, as long as they surrender wholeheartedly. Then the treatment will not be even weaker than that of the human race I belong to. The second condition is even more natural. In fact, if you don't choose to surrender, I will also advance all the way, and sooner or later I will confront the monster. But this third condition, Tina heard it and explained, this is what the Lord proposed. And it was specifically mentioned that this is a condition that was proposed when the Lord was a man. Qin Feng was stunned. What if I were a woman? Tina did not hide it and said, if it were a woman, the third condition would be different. However, since the Lord is a man, the third condition now is also like this. Quote, Qin Feng was speechless. Is there any explanation for this condition? Tina heard it and said, Lady Tia said that the best way to establish a connection is either to have interests or to use emotions as a bond. The human race is a group that values friendship and loyalty, so this condition is proposed. Qin Feng heard it and did not refute it. It has to be said. Although there are traitors, scums, and other shameless people among the human race. But generally speaking, among all the races in the heavens, the reputation of the human race is indeed superior. However, this condition seems to be worthwhile for me. Elf girl, your appearance is also aesthetically pleasing. After weighing it in his heart, Qin Feng felt that he had no reason to refuse. After all, the 3 conditions proposed by the other party were not excessive. If it is possible to subdue a relatively strong force in this way, it is completely within the scope of acceptance. Immediately, he said, there is no problem with the 3 conditions. Now, let's get back to the question you asked. That is, the strength of my soldiers. Tina's eyes lit up when she heard this, and she said, Lord, I want to make a request. If possible, I hope that we can have a real-life fight. Qin Feng grinned when he heard this. Fight? No problem. I just don't know how you plan to fight. Team fight, or individual fight? Tina thought about it and said, just an individual fight. If the Lord has more than 5 people who can defeat me, then it's considered that you recognize your strength. Tina still seemed quite confident. But it's not surprising. A combat rating of 84 is equivalent to the middle stage of the 9th level. To be able to defeat her, you basically have to have the strength of the late 9th level. Being able to take out 5 late 9th level warriors can barely prove that Qin Feng's troops are not weak. At least in terms of high-end combat power, it is ahead. Qin Feng smiled when he heard this. Immediately, he did not hesitate and said directly, Qin Dali. Qin Dali heard this and straightened his chest. Here. Sir, do you want me to take action? Qin Feng shook his head. No need. Send a holy knight over. Qin Dali was a little frustrated when he heard this, but he did not execute the order immediately. Soon, a holy knight wearing bright golden armor came quickly outside the camp. Level 70 Holy Knight. Legendary rank. Combat power rating. Reached level 85. Under the blessing of the Emperor, the combat power can even reach the peak of the 9th level. This it is also a pity. The effect of the human Emperor's blessing is currently only effective for those before level 10, which can only be strengthened to the peak level of level 9. However, at present, if we only deal with the elf Tina in front of us, the human Emperor's blessing is not needed. The combat power rating of level 85 is 1 level higher than Tina. Moreover, the knight is a combat unit. It is relatively comprehensive and balanced. Under the suppression of the combat rating, it is basically difficult to roll over. However, this scene also made Tina frown slightly. It seems that this is just a soldier under your command. Tina's face looked a little ugly. However, this was normal. After all, for her, she was at least a leader in her own territory. Her strength was enough to be in the forefront in the territory. In the territory, the only ones who could suppress her steadily were Lord Tia and the ancient war tree. However, now, the other party only sent a soldier. However, she did not say much about this. Instead, she took a deep breath and said, "Then please find a place, Lord." Qin Feng heard this and said, "Just outside the camp." Now, the Lingwu training ground has not been built yet. Fortunately, the current territory is large enough, and there are no buildings in most areas. It can indeed be used for fighting. Soon, outside the camp, the undeveloped area is still densely wooded. Seeing this scene, Tina's mouth corners also rose slightly. This geographical condition is extremely favorable for her. The two sides were facing each other across 100 meters. At this time, Qin Feng suddenly said, "Then, let the battle begin." As the words fell, Tina immediately jumped up, but hid directly in the tall trees. As her figure sank into the woods, her breath also completely dissipated, completely integrated with nature. Her body was attached to the trunk of a big tree. At this time, Tina had already held a longbow in her hand. This is also the most common type of elves, archers. However, as archers, Tina is obviously the most powerful type. After hiding her figure, her eyes were firmly locked on the holy knight who was standing still and unable to move. The next moment, she suddenly bent her bow and pulled the arrow, and an elemental arrow shot out instantly. The arrow composed of the essence of wood elements cut through the sky. However, the reaction of the holy knight was also quite sharp. Holy protection. As her skills were released, in an instant, a wisp of divine pattern appeared on his armor. At the moment the arrow attacked, the divine pattern was activated, and a layer of platinum shield was formed, which perfectly resolved the attack. At the same time, he turned around and locked the direction of the arrow. Holy thrust. The long spear in his hand stabbed out in the air in an instant. A ray of spear light spread from the long spear, which directly destroyed all the big trees in front of him within dozens of meters. On another big tree, Tina, who had moved her position at the moment of the attack, had her pupils shrank slightly. She was shocked in her heart, and instantly judged that the knight in front of her also had the combat power of the middle stage of the 9th level. The contempt in her heart finally disappeared, and the whole person became more calm and serious. And the next battle, it lasted for a long time. Tina took advantage of the terrain and attacked continuously. But the defense of the Holy Knight was as solid as a rock. As the battle progressed, even the area of hundreds of meters in radius was gradually flattened. Finally, behind a big tree, Tina took the initiative to show up and said, "I admit defeat." Qin Feng smiled and said, "Actually, you won't lose." Tina shook her head and smiled bitterly. "That's because this area is more suitable for me to fight. If I continue, I will just keep retreating and use other trees for cover. It doesn't make any sense. If we fight head-on, I'm not the opponent of this knight." Qin Feng heard this and said at this time, "If that's the case, I have already met the conditions." Tina frowned. At this time, Qin Feng said, "Holy Knight Squad, come here." During the conversation, a whole team of Holy Knights lined up. There were a full 10 Holy Knights, and Tina was slightly stunned. But at this time, she shook her head and said, "This is not enough. It's true that I took the initiative to admit defeat. But just this team of knights can only compete with the mountain giants in my tribe at most. It's not enough to prove anything." Qin Feng was not angry when he heard it, but said slowly, "Is that so? Then show it a little bit." During the conversation, Qin Feng finally said, "Dolly, you take action." Qin Dolly, who had been eager to try, immediately came to the raised field when he heard it. Then, he smiled and said, "Commander Tina, how about you take a rest first?" Tina shook her head when she heard it. "I am not injured, and as for the loss, I can't accept it." After speaking, Tina looked at Qin Feng and said, "Lord, you should start the call." Qin Feng was not vague. After the 3-second countdown, with the shout of, "Start," Tina just looked up at Qin Dolly, and the next moment, her pupils shrank slightly. She murmured in her heart, "So fast." At this moment, Qin Dolly was suddenly flashing with golden light. His speed was so fast that it was like a stream of light. Until, the long sword was on his body, and Chin Dolly's voice came, "Commander Tina, you lost." Tina swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but did not refute. Although she was sure that she was slightly distracted because of shock. But the speed just now also showed that the opponent's strength was far beyond her. However, before she could come back to her senses, Qin Feng took the initiative to speak. Then next, "Yan Ji, you go up." "Commander Tina, you didn't consume much just now, should it be okay?" Tina came back to her senses and nodded, and this time she completely focused her attention and looked at the red-haired beauty opposite. At the same time, a short knife appeared in her hand. She was ready for battle. Similarly, the countdown ended. Tina slightly bent her body, like a cheetah, extremely alert. However, Yan Ji did not rush over as she imagined. Instead, she raised one hand across 100 meters, and a blazing long sword condensed out, and a cold voice resounded at this moment. "Sun Wheel Sword Art, 6th Style, Sun Flame." The long sword slashed down instantly. The red sword light suddenly slashed out. In an instant, it crossed 100 meters. The heat wave spread across the surface. Tina looked horrified, and a feeling of impending death emerged from her heart. Almost subconsciously, she shouted, I give up." Yan Ji heard this, and at this time, the long sword suddenly lifted up, and the sword light swept into the sky, and finally after flying hundreds of meters, it gradually dissipated. In the distance, Tina looked at the sword light dissipating in the sky, gasped violently, and the fear in her eyes had not dissipated. Just now, there was a moment when she felt that she was about to be burned into nothingness. Beads of sweat dripped. After a long while, Tina slowly said, I lost again." Quote. In the following time, Daisy came on the field and won again without a doubt. Even then, Qin Feng also called his Heavenly Dao clone and Bull Demon clone. Instant kills again and again. Daisy was in a bad state. When she was easily defeated again, Tina was flat. She looked dazed, stunned, and absent-minded. Tina was completely confused. She never expected that she would be so vulnerable. She was stunned for a long time before she came back to her senses. Qin Feng smiled at this time. "Do you need to prove anything? If it's not enough, I can dispatch some people over." Quote. These words, Qin Feng was not threatening, although the high-end combat forces of the territory have all appeared. But the 4 spirits guards, Hu Mei, Qin Shan, and Qin Yu, can still be mobilized. The 4 spirits guards and Hu Mei, needless to say. At this moment, Qin Shan and Qin Yu, after being sent to the Iron Sect by Qin Feng. Now, their strength has also improved slightly, although their strength has not reached the first-line level in the territory. But it is basically the same as the Holy Knight, with the combat power of the middle stage of the 9th Order. As for the 4 spirits guards and Hu Mei, they are the combat power of the late 9th Order. However, Tina heard this and shook her head again and again. No need. Quote. She was speechless at this moment. After the battle just now, she was almost certain that there were at least 6 or 7 fighters in the entire territory who had reached the late 9th level or above. This strength already met the conditions that the Elf Lord had told her. Took a deep breath and slightly adjusted her mentality. Tina said at this time, "Lord, next, I plan to return to the mountain to report. The Lord of our tribe should give a reply soon. If you don't mind, you can also go back to the mountain with me. This way, we can discuss this matter earlier, and at the same time, we can understand the situation of our tribe more intuitively." Quote. Of course, this is just Tina's concern, but you are the Lord. Tina wanted to continue. Qin Feng interrupted at this time. No problem. I will go back with you directly. Tina's beautiful eyes were full of light. Lord, you are so courageous, aren't you afraid? Tina didn't say the rest of the words. But the meaning is very clear, it's nothing more than conspiracy, harm and other words. However, Qin Feng grinned at this time and said, I'm not afraid, I will just go with my clone. While speaking, switching to the clone of Tiandao, Qin Feng said, let's go, let's go. Tina was stunned for a moment. Tina looked at the Heavenly Dao clone in disbelief and said, Is this, Lord, your clone? At this time, the Bull Demon clone beside him said, Not only him, this one too. The Beast King also said, It's the same here. Looking at the clones in front of her, Tina's eyes widened. Of course, She was not shocked by the clone. After all, among the myriad races, there are not a few races that can have clones, and their skills are not few. What shocked her was Qin Feng's strength. The 3 clones actually had the power to crush themselves. Doesn't this mean that Qin Feng's own combat power will be stronger? Looking at Qin Feng at this moment, Tina said, "Lord, your strength is so strong." Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. "Is it strange?" Tina nodded and said, "It is indeed very strange. According to what my clan lord said, your Tiandao lords are generally not too strong. Especially in the early stage. And in this area, you Tiandao lords will descend for more than 10 days. Tina's face was full of amazement. However, this is the truth. In fact, even if the Kalia alliance that Qin Feng had fought against before, only Kalia is a lord with extraordinary strength. Most of the other lords are basically hiding in the temporary territory in the back. Most of the other lords are also like this. It is indeed extremely rare for a lord like Qin Feng to have extraordinary strength. The most important thing is, Qin Feng is not developing towards the direction of a combat lord. In terms of resource allocation in the territory, he did not pay extra attention to himself. However, Qin Feng was also quite curious at this time. "By the way, how do you know so much?" Tina smiled and said, "In fact, I won't hide it from you. The former owner of our territory was also a lord of the Heavenly Dao." Qin Feng was slightly confused when he heard this, "Lord of the Heavenly Dao." He fell. Tina heard this and whispered, "It can't be considered a complete fall. The former lord came here about 3 years ago. She was also very talented, and soon developed into a 7th level territory, and unified this area. But she died in an accident. Lord Tia was a hero under the former lord, and then took over the territory. However, with the demise of the former lord, the territory was no longer recognized by the world's will, so gradually we took root here and became one of the wild forces. It took us 3 full years to upgrade to an 8th level territory. The speed of improvement is far from comparable to that of the heavenly lords." Qin Feng heard this and nodded slightly. This kind of thing. It is not uncommon in the endless world. At the same time, he also understood why Tina knew about the affairs of the heavenly lord. At this time, Tina also said, "It's getting late." Quote, "Lord, if there is nothing else, shall we set off now?" Qin Feng switched to the heavenly Dao clone and nodded, "Let's go." They arrived outside the eternal wall. Soon, the heavenly Dao clone joined the rest of the elves. Just as Tina said, the total number of elven soldiers under her command was about 300. Among them, most were archers. In addition, there were a small number of elven mages. Soon, Tina sent soldiers to clear the way ahead, and she and the heavenly Dao clone headed towards Kashan. Speeding all the way, in less than half an hour, the group had already climbed Kashan. Kashan, as its name suggests, is still densely covered with vegetation even at the top of the mountain. Even the trees are thicker and taller than those in the area below. 100-meter giant, there are a lot of trees. However, Qin Feng was not surprised. The territory of the elves. It is the least damaging to the environment among all the races in the world. In fact, not only does it not cause damage, but it makes the natural environment more favorable. When they collect resources, they are not like other races who directly cut down trees. Instead, they will extract their natural essence. And they will control the amount so that the trees will not be exhausted. When it comes to the later stage, when they can build the ancient tree of life, the natural power it emits will also feed back to the surroundings, making the vegetation more lush. In this way, they came all the way to the mountainside. At this time, Qin Feng saw at a glance that several huge stones looked quite abrupt. His eyes swept over. At this time, Tina also found what Qin Feng was looking at. He immediately explained, "This is the mountain giant of our tribe. Usually, they will transform into rocks to reduce consumption." Quote, "At the same time, it is also the outermost line of defense of our tribe. Their solid and huge bodies have superb defensive capabilities. Even behemoth cannot compare with it in terms of defense." Qin Feng heard this and did not refute. This is indeed the truth. Mountain giants are one of the arms that can compete with behemoth on land. And then, as they continue to go deeper into the mountains, some characteristic buildings of the elves also began to emerge. There are houses and caves on the big trees. This is the civilian house of the elves, where they live. Then, a large tree that is dozens of meters high and brown in color is even more eye-catching. This is an ancient war tree. When foreign enemies invade, it can rise from the ground and become a combat unit. This is an ancient miracle tree. This is the tree of knowledge. This is the guardian tree. Moonwell, elf altar. Tina turned into a commentator at this moment. Every time she passed an elf building, she would explain to Qin Feng. And Qin Feng also seemed quite curious. After all, although some of these buildings have been seen in books, it is a different experience to see them in real life. And some buildings are not even recorded in books. Finally, after a few minutes of rushing, a cave near the top of the mountain. Surrounded by vines, green grass spreads inside. At the entrance of the cave, there are several elf guards with a combat rating of 80 stationed here. Tina's voice sounded again. This is the meeting hall of our tribe's territory. My lord, please wait a moment, let me go in and report. Qin Feng heard the words, the player, go. Tina nodded slightly, and then strode into the cave. Just a moment, Tina came out again, looked at Qin Feng and said, my lord, the lord invites you to come in. Qin Feng heard the words and strode directly into the cave. The cave is not too big, about 100 meters long and wide, so after entering it, Qin Feng saw a graceful and beautiful female elf sitting on a chair made of vines. Under the detection technique, the other party's message was imprinted in his eyes. Name, Tia. Race, Night Elf. Bloodline level, SS. Profession, Demon Hunter S. Legendary, level, 77. Combat power rating, 88. And similarly, after seeing Qin Feng appear, the female elf, who was originally a little lazy, immediately stood up and smiled. Welcome, the lord of the human race. My name is Tia, and I am the lord of this territory. Of course, you can call me Tia. Your business has been told to me. I can also represent the territory and express my willingness to surrender. If you have no objection, we can sign the contract now. Quote. Qin Feng heard this and said, are you so anxious? At this time, Dia smiled bitterly and said, sir, come with me and you will know. Qin Feng heard this and nodded with curiosity. Then, he followed Dia and walked into a hanging basket at the back of the cave. At this time, Qin Feng just discovered. The top of the cave here was connected. And the hanging basket was also slowly rising under the energy infusion of Dia. Money is good. Until it rose to the top. Qin Feng found that he was already at the top of the mountain. At this time, Dia pointed to the west and said, sir, look. Qin Feng looked in the direction of his finger. Even from a long distance, he could vaguely see at the foot of the west side of Kuifeng. A large area of land was already pitch black, and the endless breath of the dead was rising, even dispersing the gray garden. Camps built of bones were stationed at the foot of the green mountain. The elves' camp had retreated to the mountainside, and a little further up was where the elves lived. Tia smiled bitterly at this time. The situation has come to this point. What other choice do I have? If I were alone, I would fight to the death. But I have to be responsible for my people. While speaking, Tia looked at Qin Feng and sighed, I can't bear this pressure anymore. It was a serious word. However, under Tia's watery eyes, Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a desire to protect. Moreover, he was sure that this was not an illusion. This also made Qin Feng secretly say in his heart, this goblin is lifting. Dia's eyebrows were furrowed, her face full of bitterness and fatigue. Since a few days ago, the Lich has set his sights on Kashan. The reason why it has not launched a large-scale attack yet. Firstly, it has just annexed the snowman forces of Shifeng Mountain, and needs to digest for a while. Secondly, under the nourishment of the ancient tree of life of our tribe, the life force of Kashan is rich, and the strength of these undead will be greatly weakened in this environment. But as the days go by, the foot of the west side of Kashan has been polluted by the power of the undead. Moreover, the number of troops mobilized is increasing. I think it won't be long before they will launch an attack. Under such a situation, the pressure is doubled every day. Dia sighed lightly, because the two were close to each other, and at this moment, the fragrance of the kitchen and orchid was imprinted in Qin Feng's nose. Qin Feng's eyebrows suddenly raised at this time. That was before. Now, I'm here. The horn of counterattack is about to sound. Tia looked up, looked at Qin Feng, and said seriously, really? Qin Feng smiled faintly at this time. It's already discussed. If you are worried, you can sign the contract now. Tia heard this, but chuckled at this time. Then, let's sign the contract. Her words were not false. At this moment, she really couldn't bear the pressure. And since Tia said so, Qin Feng had no reason to refuse at this time. Soon, the contract was generated. Subsidiary contract. From now on, Kashan territory will be attached to Qin Feng territory. When the contract inscription came into effect completely, Tia's expression was obviously much more relaxed, and her smile was also much brighter. She said at this time, then, from today on, you are our new lord. Qin Feng smiled at this time and said, why don't you ask the proportion of resources to be handed over after the contract is signed? Tia shook her head and said, it doesn't matter. If it can resolve the crisis, it can allow the tribesmen to live peacefully and safely. Even if all the resources are handed over, it is not impossible. Qin Feng grinned and said, that's not the case. For the affiliated territories, my demand is that 80% of the resources be handed over. If there is enough potential, then only 60–70% of the resources can be handed over. This is the standard that Qin Feng currently uses for some of his subordinates to belong to the Lord. Among them, the surrendered lords surrender 90% of their resources. Only 10% of the resources are left to maintain the daily expenses of the territory. The subordinate lords, on the other hand, have 60–80% of their resources. For example, the Fire Spirit clan, because its subsequent military unit, Flame Demon, is strong enough in Qin Feng's opinion, only 70% of its resources are surrendered. Qin Feng was explaining. At this time, Tia smiled charmingly. In fact, it doesn't have to be so troublesome. Qin Feng was stunned. The next moment, a prompt sounded. Ding, the Kashan territory under your command has made a trusteeship request, and the trusteeship period is 10 years. After agreeing to the request, all affairs of the Kashan territory will be fully responsible by you. Do you agree? Qin Feng heard the prompt sound and showed a look of surprise. He didn't expect Tia would actually make such a choice. Just as the prompt showed. Once he agrees to this request, then Kashan territory will be completely under his control. Replace it with a position, that is, temporary lord. This choice has both advantages and disadvantages for Qin Feng. The advantage is that he can directly mobilize all the resources and personnel in the entire Kashan territory. This is an ability that even the surrendered lords do not have. Although Qin Feng can give orders to the surrendered lords, the other party must accept it. But in actual situations, the surrendered lords can pretend to obey but secretly disobey. For example, Qin Feng asked a surrendered lord to garrison an area. Because of the contract, the other party could not refuse. But they could be afraid of fighting, slack off in dealing with it, and even choose to withdraw if some people were killed or injured. Unless you urge and pay attention to the other party's actions at all times, you can avoid this. At the same time, this also means that Qin Feng can consume his own resources to use the buildings of the elves and recruit soldiers unique to the elves. Even in some activities, the combat power of this entrusted territory can also be mobilized. Normally speaking, no lord would take such measures, because it cannot be cancelled before the trusteeship ends. During this period, if the other party has bad intentions, there are too many things they can do. And now, Tia's trusteeship request is as long as 10 years. What this means is complete trust. Of course, there are disadvantages. That is, it is equivalent to managing 2 territories. The workload is undoubtedly much larger. However, compared with the advantages, the disadvantages seem to be insignificant. After all, as the territory continues to expand, the workload itself will also increase, and no lord complains about it. Now it is equivalent to controlling a large force in advance and owning everything in advance. A larger workload is not a big problem. Do you trust me so much? Qin Feng couldn't help but speak. Hearing this, Tia sighed. The contract has been signed. It doesn't make much difference. Since you want to do it more straightforwardly. Besides, I was not born as a lord, and I am not used to managing a large territory. It's better to give it to you. Qin Feng heard this and didn't hesitate at this time. Agree. Quote, when answering, Qin Feng found that there was an additional sub-option behind his territory panel. With a thought, he switched to this option. It was the corresponding message from Kashan territory. His eyes were looking at the message from Kashan territory. At this time, a gentle voice rang in his ears. Sir, from now on, Kashan will be completely handed over to you. I am just an ordinary citizen now. Qin Feng was still a little stunned when he heard this, and he didn't know what Dia wanted to express. The next moment, Dia suddenly said, do you have a candidate for the third condition before? Hearing this, Qin Feng's eyes instantly locked on Dia in front of him, and then he was not vague. Yes, there is. Dia looked directly at Qin Feng, but her body quietly moved closer. Is it my slave? Feeling the other party's boldness. At this time, Qin Feng smiled and said, I know your intention. Quote, however, even if you don't do so, I will do my best to protect Kashan territory. After all, this is now my power. Besides, you have found the wrong target. Tia was slightly stunned. What do you mean? Qin Feng pointed at himself and said, I am indeed the Lord, but this is just one of my clones. Of course, if you are sure you want to do this, you can go down the mountain now. My real body is in the camp at the foot of the mountain. Hearing this, Tia's face was slightly tense at this time. Then, he said dryly, my lord, you are joking. Well, I feel a little uncomfortable. Excuse me first. After the words fell, Tia jumped directly and jumped off the top of the mountain. In the camp, Qin Feng's real body laughed at this moment, revealing a playful smile. Interesting, really interesting. It's too late to regret now. The problem of Kashan is easier than Qin Feng imagined. Qin Feng had never thought of conquering the entire Kashan without using force. However, with the conquest of Kashan, the enemies that appeared now became even stronger. In the camp, Qin Feng also began to deploy troops at the first time. 4 camps, all the soldiers were directly integrated and marched towards Kashan. No need to stay. After all, Kashan, the most forward territory, is now their own, and the defense line naturally needs to be moved outward. While the soldiers under his command were rushing to Kashan, Qin Feng's Heavenly Dao clone walked towards a huge building at this time. Stonehenge. This is the building of the elves to recruit mountain giants. It is also one of the arms that Qin Feng values at present. Before arriving at the building, because it has been taken over, Qin Feng can use the building. With a thought, a panel appeared. Recruitment R&D. There are only 2 options. Among them, there are 3 options for recruitment. Stone Guard Mountain Giant among them, the third option has not yet been unlocked. But the first 2 can already be recruited. In front of the Stonehenge, as the recruitment interface appeared, the information of 3 types of soldiers appeared. Stone Guard, King level soldiers, current upper limit, 10th level. Recruitment resources, 800. This is a defensive soldier, with a very slow movement speed, not suitable for attack. Therefore, Qin Feng has no interest in this. Mountain Giant. Legendary soldiers, heavy soldiers, current upper limit, 10th level. Recruitment resources, 20,000 resources. Looking at the information of the Mountain Giant, Qin Feng was instantly numb. Recruitment resources, surprisingly, require a full 20,000. However, he can understand it. Even for the same level of soldiers, the resources for recruitment are different. For example, Blood Demon Berserker, the current 7th level recruitment resources are 2,000 resources. But if it is replaced with the same level of Violent Behemoth, this resource will definitely increase several times. Similarly, normally, the recruitment price of a 7th level legend may be only 8,000 resources. But the Mountain Giant, as a heavy unit, has defense and vitality beyond ordinary legends, and is a weapon of war. The price will naturally be much more expensive. This is the characteristic of heavy units. They do not need to be too many in number to be able to exert an effect that exceeds the same level, grade, and number of troops. A Mountain Giant may have the same combat power as a Holy Knight. But the impact of a Mountain Giant on the battle situation is far greater than that of a Holy Knight. If there are more, the impact will be greater. But it's a pity. This mountain beast can't be recruited. Otherwise, it would be invincible. At this time, Qin Feng looked at the last unit that had not been unlocked. Mountain Beast. Supreme level troops. Super large troops. Current upper limit. 10th level. Recruitment requirements. 1. 1 million resources. 2. Mountain core. 3. Unlock the technology, Beast Shell. This thing. It can be called one of the ultimate troops of the elves. Its body is just like its name, a mountain. In the later stage of the elves, they can even directly use the beast as their territory. Once the enemy approaches, the beast can't bear the trampling and crushing of the beast. However, the recruitment conditions are too harsh. The consumption of resources is a small matter. The mountain core. It is SSS level item. It is the essence of a mountain. Once extracted, the mountain will become a dead land with no grass. Moreover, extracting the core of a mountain is not easy. Either a super powerful being will be involved in refining it, or it will be extracted through a special magic array over a long period of time. In short, this thing is now unavailable even if you want to buy it at the Rookie Lord stage. It depends on whether you can get lucky and open the treasure chest directly. Unlocking technology. It is even more difficult. Qin Feng glanced at the technology that comes with the Stonehenge. It is necessary to unlock all the more than 10 subsequent technologies of the mountain giant step by step. Some of them require strange items. Even the expenses during the period alone are as high as millions of resources. Speaking of which, the former Lord of Kashan territory did develop well. Stonehenge itself is a special and rare building belonging to the elves. Not only did the other party get it, but they even unlocked the mountain giant. Quote. He sighed in his heart. At this time, Qin Feng looked at his current resources. 210,000, 330,000. The resources are now divided into two parts. The former is the resources of Qin Feng's own territory. Among them, he originally planned to draw hero units, but the recruitment role was saved. Adding the mining accumulation in the second half of the day, the number reached 210,000. The latter is the resources of Kashan territory. Looking at these resources, the Heavenly Dao clone did not hesitate and directly chose to recruit all the mountain giants. However, the difference is, the mountain giants recruited by their own resources belong to their own army. And the mountain giants recruited by Kashan territory's resources belong to Kashan territory. However, Qin Feng can mobilize them. Soon, a total of 26 mountain giants were recruited. Qin Feng did not hesitate at this time and sent them directly to the mountainside on the west side. At the same time, the other mountain giants and soldiers guarding the south side were also sent. After all, now the south side is their own territory. Before, the situation was unclear and still needed to be guarded. And now, all we need to do is to completely block the west side. About an hour later, on the west side, in the elf camp on the mountainside, a large wave of support arrived. One mountain giant after another, as well as soldiers led by Qin Dali and others, rushed to the camp. As expected of the undead, the breath is disgusting. Yan Ji's eyes were cold, and she seemed extremely unhappy with this breath. At this time, Daisy also said, I really want to purify all these things with thunder. On the side, Qin Feng had a black line on his face. Did you forget something? Both women were stunned. Ah. Qin Feng bared his teeth and said, my original body is a transferred undead mage. Hiss, you have to be careful in the future. One wants to vomit all over me, and the other wants to purify me. Both women came back to their senses and spoke one after another. That's different. The Lord does not have an evil breath. Looking at the two slightly nervous women, Qin Feng laughed, I'm just teasing you. Although I am an undead mage, the power of the undead has long been completely suppressed. Quote. That's naturally different. The two women hurriedly said, Your Excellency is right. Yeah. On the other side, Qin Tianwan said, I don't care. Even if the Lord is an undead, I will become an undead at worst. Anyway, I will follow you. This statement, there is nothing wrong with it. But it seems to be a drag with the previous words of the two women. Immediately, two unfriendly eyes locked on Qin Dali. Then, two voices sounded. Qin Dali, can you come over? Dali, I have something to tell you. Qin Dali trembled when he heard it, and then he came back to his senses and squeezed out a smile and said, Two elder sisters, and, I don't mean that. While speaking, He kept winking at Qin Feng. Qin Feng chuckled. Okay, don't make a fuss here. The enemy we are facing this time is extraordinary. Quote. Next, Qin Dali, listen to my orders. Qin Dali showed a grateful look on his face. He quickly straightened his chest. Here. Qin Feng said. You lead 30 blood demons, 15 frost wizards, 6 mountain giants, 2 holy knights, and 2 white-robed priests to the elf camp number 6 for reinforcement. Then, he said again, Daisy, you take. The tasks were assigned one by one. Qin Dali, Daisy, Yanji, Tiandao clone, Niumo clone, and Beast King clone each took their personnel to the 6 camps for support. At this time, Qin Feng also felt more and more. The number of troops under his command was too small. After slightly dispersing the personnel, each camp could only send so many people. This is still. Qin Feng withdrew the 4 camps that were left in the front to defend himself. Now there are only 6 camps on the west side of the mountain. Otherwise, if the elves had 10 camps and divided 10 troops out, it is estimated that each route would not be able to gather 50 people. Fortunately, although these personnel are small, but they are elite, especially the increase in high-end combat power is huge. Each camp has a 9th level peak sitting in charge. After some arrangements, at this time, Qin Feng issued another order. Behind the 6 frontline camps, a mobile camp was still set up. In it, only a team of light knights, the elf soldiers from the previous camp, and Tina remained. In addition, there are 4 spirits. The personal guards and Qin Feng's body were in charge. The others had been completely assigned. I just don't know if these undead will take advantage of tonight to launch an attack. Qin Feng looked at the undead zone below with a dim gaze. He believed that this group of undead should have discovered the changes in the garrison on the west side. However, even if the other party attacked suddenly, Qin Feng was not afraid. At this moment, the 6 camps basically blocked the entire western defense line. In addition, because 4 camps were withdrawn, the troops of 3 of them were assigned. Now, each camp, plus the troops under Qin Feng's own command, has almost increased to 200. The defensive capacity has more than doubled compared to the initial one. Let's leave it at that for now. As Qin Feng murmured, the night gradually fell. At the same time, just as Qin Feng expected, below, a large area, almost occupying the entire foot of the mountain, and even a mountain peak behind as a camp. The total number of these camps is more than 100. And in each camp, there are a large number of undead creatures. Skeletons, zombies, ghosts, all kinds of creatures, everything. At this moment, at the end of the camp, in a camp that is obviously larger and has a stronger undead aura, a humanoid creature with a haggard face showed a teasing look. Actually, is it a consciousness enhancement? It seems to be the Lord of the human race, or the Lord of the heavenly way. In this case, it can't be slowly eroded. The night deepened. Qin Feng finally did not stay in the mobile camp. Instead, he took advantage of the night and quietly returned to the top of the mountain. Under the cover of the night. Soon, Qin Feng came to the cave before. At the entrance of the cave, there were still several elf guards. Qin Feng appeared and said, Is Tia in there? One of the elf guards nodded and said, Lady Tia is resting inside. Qin Feng's eyes lit up and waved his hand and said, You are not needed here, sleep well tonight. Several guards were delighted when they heard this, and whispered, Thank you, Lord. The words fell. Several people also left quickly. Looking at the closed cave, Qin Feng smiled at this time. With a leap, he came directly to the top of the mountain. No surprise. Located at the top of the mountain, the cave entrance was not closed at this moment. After all, this thing can also be ventilated. Moreover, under the previous circumstances, no one would come to the cave. Qin Feng jumped and fell into the cave. Under the exquisite control, no footsteps were heard. He looked at the hammock woven by vines, on which a graceful figure was lying sideways. The second brother was urging at this time, Hurry up and move forward. Qin Feng did it himself in big things. But in a safe situation, I still listen to my second brother's advice. Immediately, she jumped up and instantly lay on the hammock, with her arms around her, and the soft fragrance entered her arms. Who is it? Tia's terrified voice suddenly sounded. At the same time, she mobilized the energy in her body and was about to take action. However, Qin Feng's voice sounded at this time. I have decided that the candidate for the third condition is you. Hearing this voice, Tina's body was still a little stiff. But the energy mobilized in her body gradually calmed down. Until, after a while, her body also became soft. Come. There's so much dew on this mountaintop. It's all over my hands. Qin Feng's voice rang out, shaking off the water droplets on his palm. Tia's voice trembled. You're so annoying. Qin Feng smiled, and was just about to fill the leak. The next second, his brows suddenly frowned. Then, he took a deep breath. Lich. I'll twist your head off. While talking, Tia also came back to her senses at this time, and the redness on her face dissipated a little. What happened? Qin Feng nodded slightly and stood up. It can only be next time. Quote. Those undead actually launched a night attack. At this moment, dark clouds covered the sky. These dark clouds were not real dark clouds. Instead, they were formed by the thick gathering of the undead. In the dark clouds, thousands of flying units approached the mountain. Bone birds, corpse butterflies, all were included. Similarly, at the foot of the mountain, the undead gathered, so dense that they could not be counted. Instantly, the 6 camps all sounded the alarm, and all personnel entered a state of alert. The battle broke out in an instant. The undead rushed like a tide, and the scene was just like the tide of the abyss demons at the beginning. Although the number was definitely not as terrifying as hundreds of thousands or millions. But there were still tens of thousands. And the difference was, at this moment, there were no other hundreds of leaders. The Lord's soldiers helped. There were only 6 camps defending, with a total of about 3,000 plus soldiers resisting. However, just at the moment when the battle broke out, a voice full of anger rang out. Undead, you are looking for death. Super, Shinra Tensai. A figure in a golden robe raised his palm in the air with a loud shout. The next second, endless repulsive force enveloped the hundreds of meters in front. There was no sign. The undead army charging in front was crushed to death by this force in an instant. Or turned into bone powder. Or the whole body exploded directly. This scene made Tia, who was following Qin Feng closely, widen her eyes. However, just at the next moment, a figure broke through the air in an instant from the undead behind. It was a necromancer holding a bone staff. It said grimly, there is such a strong man. Next, let me meet you. Qin Feng glanced and said disdainfully, you are not worthy, let your lord speak out. The necromancer was furious, raised his hand and waved the staff, and a giant python condensed from bones came to bite Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng did not move at all. Below, a dazzling fire suddenly broke through the air. Flame Phoenix. It was Qin Feng who made a move. One of the 4 spirit guards, he obtained the inheritance of the Suzaku Flame Warlock. And then, 3 figures broke through the air in succession. It was Qin Zan, Qin Hu, and Qin Long. The 3 people were in front of Qin Feng, each of them exuding a strong aura. Indistinctly, a green dragon, a white tiger, and a strange beast with a turtle body and a snake head could be seen emerging. Qin Feng was in midair, but his eyes were still full of determination. At this time, he said directly, kill. As soon as the words fell, the 3 of them leapt and instantly killed into the army of undead. However, soon, Qin Feng saw that there were high-level undead in the army of undead, and they took the initiative to find the 3 people. At the same time, not only the 3 people, even the other high-level combat forces such as Qindali were entangled by the opponent's high-level combat forces. Even in a disadvantageous state. The reason is, the difference in numbers is too big. The opponent's high-level combat forces, the number is at least more than 100, and all of them are 9th level combat forces. There are many late 9th level ones among them. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a solemn look. The opponent, after all, it has successively occupied 12 of the 13 peaks. 12 mountain forces, if each of them has an overall strength that is not inferior to Kashan. Then, on average, there are more than 20 early 9th order warriors, and about 5 late 9th order warriors, or even peak warriors, on a mountain peak. Adding the Lich on Black Wind Mountain, the number of strong men under his command should be even greater. On his side, even if Qindali and others are all peak 9th order warriors, they are still not strong enough. At this time, a zombie figure floated up. The aura of his whole body was extremely gloomy, and he laughed a strange laugh, and said, "Lord of Heaven. You are quite powerful. I heard that you want to talk to me. Unfortunately, I have nothing to say to a dying person." In the back, Tia flew to Qin Feng's side. Her face was equally ugly. "Let's work together to get rid of it." Qin Feng heard this and shook his head. "It's not that simple. This body, its original body." The figure on the opposite side sneered, "Your eyesight is not bad. To find my original body. It's not difficult. Do you see the army below? Get rid of them all, and kill all the undead under my command. Then you will naturally be able to see me. But, unfortunately, you can't even survive tonight." Quote. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. "Really?" The Lich clone sneered. "Is it not?" At this time, Qin Feng's mind was quiet and connected to the Lord panel. Then, activate the skill, the blessing of the Emperor. In an instant, with a ray of golden light, it suddenly sprinkled down and covered all the soldiers under Qin Feng's command. Under the blessing of this ray of golden light, the breath of the soldiers rose greatly in an instant. This scene, the eyes of the Lich clone suddenly widened. "This is impossible." Qin Feng smiled, and his voice suddenly resounded. 0.3 inches all troops attack. While speaking, the soldiers who could only blame themselves for holding on to their original positions shouted angrily. The already powerful Holy Knight exuded a sacred breath all over his body and moved forward. The Knight of Light, shining with golden light, the power of holy light, attached to the long guns, followed by killing. The 9th level Peak Knight. The charge launched was irresistible to most ordinary undead of only 7th or 8th level. As the charge was launched everywhere, the undead army was torn apart. Some undead turned around to kill the knights, which caused the formation of the undead army to be in chaos instantly. At this time, the mountain giants finally found a breakthrough and stepped forward. The Blood Demon War is now also 9th level combat power, and also rushed out. The situation was reversed in an instant. Moreover, looking at the support of many 9th level soldiers, the hero units finally stopped being depressed at this moment and broke out one after another. In just a moment, the whole situation changed. The gap in high-end combat power was reversed at this moment. The undead army also began to be cleared out one after another and retreated step by step. Almost in an instant, the whole battle situation has undergone earth-shaking changes. From difficult resistance, to turning defense into offense. And within 10 minutes, the undead in the middle and upper parts of the mountain have been repelled. However, at this time, a voice full of anger sounded at this moment. Hymn of the Undead. It was the Lich's clone who finally took action at this time. As his spell was released, a circle of ripples spread towards the undead army below. This is also a skill of the Gain type. After this circle of ripples covered, the strength of the undead below was increased to a certain extent. Although, the degree of increase is far less than the blessing of the human emperor. But the number of undead is still large. Qin Feng only has about 500 troops, and the elves cannot get the blessing of the human emperor. In addition, these undead have now retreated to the death zone and are no longer suppressed by the power of life. Therefore, the entire defense line was held. However, Qin Feng would not sit idly by at this time. At the moment when the opponent released the spell, he suddenly raised his palm and the Wanxiang Tianyan was activated. At the same time, with a teasing smile on his lips, he said, "Where is the arrogance just now? I haven't made a move yet, but you can't help it first. Are you anxious?" The Lich clone was furious and was about to speak. But the strong gravity had already acted on him. His body also flew towards Qin Feng uncontrollably. In his hand, the human emperor sword also chopped down at this moment. This attack was extremely abrupt, and the Lich clone had just released a group enhancement skill. For a while, there was no way to defend. He could only let the human emperor sword suddenly chop down. Swish! This zombie body could not resist the damage of the human emperor sword. Just one sword cut it in two from the shoulder. The lower body fell to the ground. The upper body, which only had half of the shoulder and head left, finally took advantage of the dissipation of gravity and hurriedly flew away. However, just as he turned around, Qin Feng's voice sounded again. "You forgot to bring something." The Lich clone turned around and saw that his lower body was rushing towards him at a very fast speed. However, Qin Feng used the Shinra Tensai to bounce it away. seeing that his lower body was about to hit. At this time, the Lich clone also reacted quickly. The only remaining arm was raised, and a low shout sounded. Undead Bone Shield. A white bone shield appeared, suddenly blocking the lower half of the body, flying at a very fast speed, avoiding being hit. But Qin Feng's voice sounded again. Tisk tisk, it seems that you are not satisfied with this half of your body. In this case, I will ask you to destroy it. While speaking, Qin Feng slashed out with a sword in the air. Bang! The sound of explosion came. The lower half of the body of the Lich clone exploded with a bang. The broken limbs and arms fell in all directions. Facing this scene, the anger of the Lich clone has reached its peak. As it dissipated the bone shield, its cold eyes locked on Qin Feng. At the same time, words full of murderous intent came out of its mouth. Human, you have successfully angered me. Hearing this, Qin Feng's figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he appeared in front of the Lich's clone. At the same time, the human emperor's sword suddenly slashed down. A panicky sound resounded at this moment. Noisy guy. Quote. I grant you death. The death skill is activated, and the surging energy instantly infuses the concrete sea. The eyes of the Lich's clone suddenly widened. The next moment, its breath completely dissipated and returned to nothingness. However, it was at this time. A figure floated out from the Shifeng mountain, adjacent to Kashan, and looked at Qin Feng with a cold gaze. The substantive killing intention burst out at this moment. Qin Feng looked up and faced him across the air. At this time, a voice came from afar. Human, I, Phoenix, recognize you. This time, I am not well prepared, so I will let you go for now. But next time, you won't be so lucky. I will catch you, and you will be refined into a corpse puppet and be enslaved by me forever. After the words fell, before Qin Feng could speak, Phoenix suddenly released the magic. Mist of the Dead. Wall of Bones. Death Swamp. 3 spells. At the foot of the mountain, the area where the undead were located, a large area of black fog covered everything. At the same time, a high wall of bones tens of meters high suddenly spread out, isolating the entire foot of the mountain. A large area of swamps with black bubbles appeared outside the wall of bones. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng also ordered at this time, stop here, withdraw the troops. In the back, Ya seemed a little anxious. Are you not going to attack? He released 3 such large-scale spells in succession, which must have consumed a lot. Qin Feng shook his head when he heard it. Of course he knew. The opponent's consumption was not small. The shield wall stretching for dozens of miles, the huge swamp with a width of hundreds of meters, and the fog covering a large area of mountains. These 3 skills, when used, are definitely not inferior to his continuous release of Super God Luo Tianzheng and Earth Explosion Star. Even, Qin Feng also knew clearly. Just now, after I used the Grant of Death skill of the Human Emperor Sword. The power of the Grant of Death even directly caused damage to its body from thousands of meters away. According to Qin Feng's estimation, as long as the opponent has not broken through the 10th level. Under this series of operations, the combat power that can be exerted now is estimated to be less than 30%. B. Still can't pursue. The reason is also very simple. Since the beginning of the war, the battle has lasted for a while. Now the remaining time of the Human Emperor's blessing is only about half. In such a short time, we have to cross the swamp, destroy the opponent's white bone wall, and enter the undead maze to fight. It is definitely not enough to annihilate the opponent. Moreover, it is very likely that because the battle line is too long, it will fall into crisis. Even the number of undead that the opponent dispatched just now is not clear. The opponent has camps of all sizes all over the mountain. It is possible that the tens of thousands of undead troops that attacked just now are only a part of them. Secondly, even if they could be unstoppable and even directly capture the entire Shifeng mountain. But the probability of leaving Phoenix behind is infinitely close to 0. Then what? There are more than 10 mountains behind the opponent. As a strategic depth, they can completely retreat. On the contrary, how to defend if they occupy Shifeng mountain? Insufficient troops. Dispersing will only expose greater weaknesses. If they don't defend, what's the point of capturing? If they retreat, the opponent can turn around and continue to occupy it. Considering this situation, Qin Feng decided to stop while he was ahead. Seeing that Qin Feng had made a decision, Tia didn't say much at this time. She had been a hero and knew that it was okay to make suggestions, but it was not advisable to talk nonsense and question the Lord's decision. She had already expressed her judgment. Since Qin Feng still chose to refuse, if she continued to talk, she would be abrupt. Soon, a group of soldiers began to withdraw, return to the camp. The statistics of casualties were also reported at the first time. After summarizing the casualties of each camp, the loss was greater than Qin Feng had imagined. 6 frontline camps, plus the mobile camp. A total of more than 300 people died. The injured personnel were even more. However, almost all of the dead were elves. Qin Feng's tribesmen only died 3 people. The reason why so many people died is because the number of the opponent is too large after all. Qin Feng's average strength is at the 9th level, so there is naturally no problem. But the elves can't withstand all kinds of attacks from all directions. This is still a battle under advantage. If it is a disadvantage, the side with more people can besiege and kill, and even crush the weaker side without injury. And, the most important thing is, there are many undead warlocks in the undead army. Their corpse explosion technique is extremely difficult to deal with. The undead were not afraid of death, and they were not afraid of hurting themselves under the corpses all over the ground. They were directly under the large-scale corpse explosion. There was no way to avoid it. That was why Qin Feng also lost 3 people. The 3 frost magicians died in the large-scale explosion. Qin Feng's face was calm while listening to the report. After a while, he said, "Bring back all the corpses you can find and bury them. The rest, leave them for daily defense personnel. Everyone else, go to rest early." After the words fell, Qin Feng no longer had the interest to continue to go to the cave for entertainment. Instead, he turned around and returned to the mobile camp. In the undead camp, Phoenix's breath was obviously much weaker. All the magic elements in his body were in a state of disorder. He covered his chest. That was his core. The heart of the undead can also be called the heart of the Lich. Although, after being transformed into a Lich, the heart had long stopped beating, but it was indeed the source of its magic power. And at this moment, in this dark heart, there was a tiny sword mark. The sword mark was golden, as if it could not be erased. Phoenix tried to repair it, but found that the effect was very poor. In fact, according to his estimation, if it was repaired by itself, it would take at least several days. He had no choice. He slowly stood up from the bone throne. Then, several undead creatures emitting powerful energy fluctuations also entered the hall at this moment. My lord, all the undead creatures lowered their heads and spoke one after another. Phoenix looked at the undead and said slowly, "I need to rest for a while. Next, you don't need to attack. Just hold on." All the undead responded, "Don't worry." Seeing this, Phoenix slowly left the camp, and then his body floated up and flew all the way to the mountain behind. After a while, he flew to the top of a mountain. The top of this mountain is similar to Kashan, and there is a huge gap. Enter the mountain from it. Inside the mountain, there is a stronger power of the undead. And here is where its nest is, that is, the inside of the Black Wind Mountain. At this moment, in the mountain, a pool of water as black as ink exudes an extremely strong breath of death. Phoenix did not hesitate, and his whole body invaded it. The strong power of the undead permeated his body, and at this time, the wound on his heart began to repair at a faster speed. It only took half a day. The injury was healed, but the entire pool of water also became much smaller at this moment. Seeing this scene, Phoenix couldn't help but grit his teeth and said, "Human." This pool of water, but he had accumulated it for several years and refined thousands of creatures before it was gathered together. But I didn't expect, just to repair the injury, it consumed nearly 1/5. However, although he was extremely angry, Phoenix's eyes were also full of fear. After all, the scar just now was too terrible. He didn't dare to imagine what the result would be if the sword was not cut on the clone, but on his original body. His eyes were cold. At this time, Phoenix did not choose to leave. Instead, he continued to sit cross-legged in the pool. He planned to break through. This pool of dead soul spring was originally prepared for his breakthrough. Originally, his plan was to conquer the 13 outer peaks first, and then break through in seclusion. But plans cannot keep up with changes. The strength Qin Feng showed in this war was beyond his imagination. He could only break through in advance. When I break through, I can also learn that skill by then. When the time comes, we can take down Kashan in one go, and then we can continue to develop towards the inner area. Phoenix's body and mind gradually became quiet. One night passed. Qin Feng woke up early. Then, he flew back to the territory. He completed the daily picking and other work. He just returned to Kashan again. Then, a meeting was held. There were not many people participating in the meeting. There were only a few heroes under his command, the leader of the Kashan elves, and Tia, the former lord. In the cave, Qin Feng spoke first. After last night, those undead will not attack in the short term. But during this period, we can't just sit there and wait for death. Once the other party has recovered, they will come back. So, I want to hear everyone's ideas and countermeasures. The words fell. Qin Dali was the first to speak. My lord, the core of the undead race is the Lich Lord. If you capture and kill him, then the other side will collapse without attacking. Give me 100 elites, I will kill myself and go into them and take them down. Qin Feng glanced at Qin Dali. What kind of elites? 109th level peaks. Or 109th level late? Do you know the number of the other side's troops, or the total number of strong men? If you rush into them rashly and get surrounded, hundreds of thousands of undead will wear you out. Tia said at this time. So, we must first find out the enemy's intelligence. Qin Feng shook his head slightly, although this matter is very important. But it is not advisable. First, it is difficult to do. In the undead area, the breath of life is like a firefly in the night, which is extremely conspicuous. There is no way to sneak in and investigate. Second, even if you know the other side's intelligence, it is difficult to take shortcuts when fighting. In the end, it is still a clash of strength. Everyone didn't know what to say for a while. Qin Feng sighed and said, in fact, what we lack most now is time. Tia and others were stunned. Time. Qin Feng nodded. Yes, time. Our biggest problem now is that the gap between us and the opponent in terms of the number of troops is too big. This victory is not because we are strong enough. Rather, the opponent's attack was launched in a hurry and very arrogant. Next time, if the opponent attacks again, I believe that both the scale and the number of strong people will be large. Tia, let me ask you. Before this, among the 13 peaks in the Black Wind Mountain area, where can your Kashan rank? Tia heard this, thought for a while, and said, not at the bottom, but not in the front. And in terms of the number of personnel, Kashan is not large. Qin Feng heard this and said, so, I can roughly assume that the remaining 12 peaks have the same average combat power as your Kashan. Ordinary combat units are not counted, only those above level 9 are counted. Quote. Kashan, strong men above level 9, 10 commanders are in the middle level 9, 10 mountain beasts are in the late level 9, plus the late level 9 lords, and the peak level 9 war ancient trees. And, some captains of the elf guards, I observed, they are all in the early level 9 combat power. In total, there are about levels of combat experience. 12 peaks, a total of more than 500 level 9 units. And on our side, I can tell you clearly that there are quite a few peak level 9, and other soldiers can also reach the level 9 combat power in a short time. But, that is time limited. Last time, the other side only dispatched 40,000 to 50,000 undead, and about 100 level 9. Quote. We successfully resisted. Quote. Next time, will we come out in full force? Everyone was silent. After hearing Qin Feng's analysis, they all realized how huge the gap between the two sides was. Tia said at this time, then Lord, what do you mean? Qin Feng's eyes were firm, and he said, I mean, retreat. I will open up the authority of my territory and allow the buildings and people of Kashan to be temporarily relocated to my territory. Contract the defense line and buy time. Of course, I could have given the order directly for this matter. But considering that this is the place where you have lived for several years, you will be reluctant to leave. So, I summoned you here specifically to explain the pros and cons. Besides, this is not a permanent evacuation. It won't be long. I promise that we can recapture Kashan and even the other peaks behind. That Lich Lord is not only a threat to Kashan, but also hinders the development of my territory. So, I will definitely defeat it. After the words fell, Qin Feng's eyes swept through the crowd. Of course, the focus was on the elf leaders and Tia. Fortunately, Wang Zhao, there was no accident. The elves soon said, "We are willing to follow the arrangements of the Lord." Tia even said, "The Lord makes a decision and implements it directly. Since I have entrusted the territory to you, the Lord can make the decision." Qin Feng heard this and nodded slightly at this time, and directly ordered, "Then next, the combat units, do not move, stay in place. Other personnel and buildings, move first. Strive to complete the relocation today. Next, give you half an hour to mobilize." "No problem." Everyone nodded. "Don't worry, Lord." The meeting ended. Qin Feng came to the top of the mountain again. He looked at the undead line. His eyes were dim. 10 days. Only 10 days. I can come back. While he was muttering, Tia flashed to Qin Feng's side and said, "My lord, everything is ready." Qin Feng nodded slightly. At this time, he opened the plate map in the Lord's panel. Then, the building migration began. The current territory is large enough. Qin Feng directly allocated an area on the right to these elves temporarily. Retreat. This is the result of Qin Feng's careful consideration last night. Although he guessed it, the Lich Phoenix should be injured. And he will not launch an attack in a short time. But how long is this time? 3 days, National Day. Qin Feng can't be sure. And just as he said just now, after analysis, the strength of the undead side is far less than that invested in the first attack. If the opponent launches another attack, it will definitely be more fierce than the first time. However, the land of Kashan, there is no defensive building in the strict sense. There are not many guardian trees, and the ancient war tree is the last trump card. Although the camp is located on the mountainside, it can rely on the geographical advantage and have a slight advantage. But this advantage is far less than that of the ministers who moved to their own territory. After all, his own territory is surrounded by the eternal wall, covered by the breath of the fountain of life, and defended by the energy of the star tower and the beam of light against the enemy. In addition, if the dead personnel enter the Hall of Heroes, if the situation is particularly critical, they can also come out and assist in the battle. And, the 4 spirit statues are also passive defense. It can be said that the overall defense capability is much greater. Qin Feng today, in a sense, in terms of offensive capability, it is actually far inferior to offensive capability. Fortunately, as the order was issued, the relocation went quite smoothly. Although the elves of Kashan were reluctant to leave the place where they had lived for several years. But they also obeyed the arrangement and went to Qin Feng's territory one after another. These elves were completely excited. The environment here. Wow, such a strong breath of life. This tall wall is full of security. No wonder Lady Tia asked us to move here. The ordinary elves were nervous, but they disappeared instantly after entering the territory. Especially, the breath of the fountain of life surprised them. This is a stronger breath of life than Kashan. Similarly, when the frontline troops retreated quietly and came to Qin Feng's territory, Tina was relatively calm. After all, she had been there before. The other commanders, even Tia, were all shocked at this time. However, before everyone could recover from the shock, Qin Feng quickly called everyone together. This time, he called everyone together to make subsequent garrison defense plans. After some arrangements, the original outpost camps were increased from 4 to 6. Each camp was responsible for a 10-kilometer defense line. Each camp had about 500 soldiers. The personnel on duty are divided into 2 shifts. Although, under such an arrangement, the personnel are still extremely sparse. Even after all the personnel go to the city wall, the personnel are spread out, and the distance between them is more than 20 meters. However, it is already the limit that can be achieved at present. Everything is arranged. Qin Feng is also clearly aware at this time that the current problem is still the lack of troops. Therefore, he opened the Lord panel as soon as possible. CCEF Resource Column. The elves are almost negligible. They spend most of their time today on relocation. Moreover, the elves now have a total population of more than 8,500, but there are 3,000 soldiers. The daily consumption of supporting these soldiers will occupy most of their daily income. The speed of accumulating resources will not be very fast. At this moment, Qin Feng is looking at the resources of his own territory. 220,000. Looking at this data, Qin Feng is not very satisfied. Because this is the income after killing the undead. The income from killing the undead is really pitifully low. Qin Feng couldn't help but complain at this time. This is why few lords are willing to wage war against the undead or even the Zerg. It's too easy for these two races to produce soldiers. They don't need to spend too much resources to produce a large number of soldiers. Because the soldiers under their command have basically abandoned wisdom. One has no brain, and the other doesn't need a brain. Add racial talents and technology. The resources obtained by killing an undead are only 1,000th of the king of killing the soldiers of other races of the same level. This little, the resources are far from enough. Qin Feng's eyes were dim. With the current length of the defense line, it would be best to have at least 5,000 soldiers in the entire territory. That is, in addition to the elves, he needs to increase his troops by about 1,500. At present, the 7th level territory directly recruits 7th level soldiers. Qin Feng does not consider low-level soldiers. Calculated based on the current mainstream Blood Demon Mad War, the recruitment price is 2,000. That is, the current total resources can only recruit 110 people. If you want to consider counterattack and have the strength to defeat the undead, this number needs to be increased by at least 2,000 people. So, at least 5 million resources are needed. Moreover, there are still 3 hero positions at present, and it is best to fill these 3 positions. Is there any way to accumulate resources quickly? Qin Feng was thinking about this question in his heart at this time. He can wait, especially, at present, when there are still clear loopholes in the defense line, he is even more anxious. He was thinking in his heart. At this time, a piece of news came. Lord, outside the territory, a strange-looking person wants to enter the territory to rest. Hearing this, Qin Feng's eyebrows jumped. What a lucky guy. Obviously, this is the mysterious businessman who has visited again. This is something Qin Feng did not expect. After all, the time of the mysterious businessman's arrival is completely irregular. But normally speaking, the interval between 2 times is basically no less than 3 months. It's only been more than 10 days since he came here again. Qin Feng thought to himself. At this time, he immediately responded, "Take him here to rest." After speaking, he also strode out of the mansion. Soon, a man in a black robe and a mask, whose appearance could not be seen clearly, looked around in amazement. After seeing Qin Feng, the man clasped his fists and said, "Are you the lord of this place? Sure enough, you are a rare talent. From a distance, I can feel that there is a kind of aura here in the middle of the night." Hearing this, Qin Feng smiled and said, "You're welcome. A little tea, please forgive me for the poor hospitality." While speaking, Qin Feng clapped his hands gently. Immediately, a lord came forward with a plate, which contained some fruits, vegetables, and food grown in the territory. Even, it included a cup of water of life and rice steamed with spiritual water. After seeing these, the man in black robe obviously had a glimmer of light in his only exposed eyes. However, he was not in a hurry to enjoy the food. Instead, he said, "To be honest, I am a mysterious businessman traveling around the world. It just so happens that there are some goods here that I want to sell. It just so happens that we are here to rest. Lord, please take a look and see if there is anything you need. At the same time, in order to thank you for your hospitality, Lord, I can give you a 20% discount on the first item of this transaction." Qin Feng smiled even more when he heard this. Immediately, he nodded slightly. "Then you eat first, and I will take a look at the goods first." Quote. While speaking, Qin Feng looked at the open shelves of the mysterious merchant in front of him. This time, the items displayed by the mysterious merchant were more exquisite than those of the mysterious merchant who came the first time. Among them, there were even items above SSB level. However, Qin Feng just glanced at the price and gave up directly. Nothing was less than 5 million resources. Look below. There are a total of 4 SS level items. Among them, Qin Feng also gave up 2 architectural drawings directly. Because these 2 architectural drawings are both studyable types, once learned, they can unlock the S-level building. Therefore, the price is even more expensive than some SSS level items. The price of disposable items is slightly cheaper. However, even so, the other two SS level items are at least above 1 million resources. Among them, the item was what Qin Feng wanted. That thing was the heroic soul, but its price was as high as 1.8 million resources. But obviously, Qin Feng did not have so many resources at present. But even so, Qin Feng kept the item in mind. Then, his eyes swept over it one after another. He was looking for a prop. If he found it, he might have the hope of buying a hero soul. After searching for a while, Qin Feng's eyes finally lit up slightly. And the item, it was the Secret Realm Exploration Map. Thunder Ruins Exploration Map. Level, 8th level. Difficulty, A level. Price, 150,000 resources. Description: after using it, you can enter the Thunder Ruins Secret Realm, and you can return after clearing the Secret Realm. Note: the number of people who can enter is 5 inches. Looking at the Secret Realm Exploration Map in front of him, Qin Feng chose to buy it without hesitation. Lord, are you sure you want to buy this item? You know, I will only give you a 20% discount on the first item. Choosing high-value items will save more resources. The mysterious merchant reminded him at this time. Qin Feng smiled bitterly when he heard this. He also wanted to buy those items worth millions or tens of millions of resources. A 20% discount is equivalent to saving millions of resources. But the key is, he can't take out so many resources. I can only say, confirmed. The mysterious merchant didn't persuade him anymore, but said, then according to the agreement, the first item is 20% off, which means only 120,000 resources are needed. As soon as the words fell, Qin Feng saw that the price of the Secret Realm Exploration Scroll on the shelf had been reduced to 120,000. Buy it immediately. A scroll entered the package. And Qin Feng also showed a hint of color. 8th level, A-level difficulty Secret Realm. This is currently the highest level that his subordinates can challenge. Moreover, the number of people who can enter is 5, which means that this secret realm belongs to a small secret realm. Looking at the mysterious merchant, Qin Feng said at this time, "How long will you rest here?" The mysterious merchant glanced at the many buildings around him at this time, and after thinking for a while, he said, "The Lord's territory is the most prosperous territory I have ever seen since I traveled so far, and it is filled with an indescribable atmosphere. If the Lord doesn't mind, I think I will visit each of the strange buildings one by one, maybe I will stay for 3 hours." Hearing this, Qin Feng's heart was stable. Immediately said, "Of course I don't mind." While speaking, Qin Feng has already sent a message to Daisy, Qin Dali, and Yanji through the Lord function. At the same time, his Tiandao clone is rushing here. Soon, with the arrival of 4 figures, Qin Feng looked at the mysterious merchant and smiled. "Next, I have to leave." Single quote. The mysterious businessman waved his hand. "It's okay, the Lord is busy, so you don't have to pay attention to me. I'll go around by myself." Hearing this, Qin Feng tore up the scroll in front of him. The next moment, the light enveloped everyone. Then, he disappeared on the spot. Is this the Thunder Ruins? Sure enough, there is a strong element of thunder everywhere. Qin Feng looked around and found that he and others were in a dilapidated courtyard. There were traces of charring everywhere. At the same time, a prompt sound also rang in his heart. This used to be a prosperous city, but for some reason, it was bombarded by thousands of thunders and completely became a ruined land. Listening to the prompt sound in his ears, Qin Feng also opened the package directly at this time. Thunder Ruins. It is a small secret realm. But it is also a city after all. He doesn't plan to explore here slowly. It is unknown when the mysterious merchant will come next time. We should take advantage of the other party's arrival this time to gain more benefits. Immediately, Qin Feng also took out a scarlet fruit directly from the package. It was the blood bodhisattva fruit. This thing was purchased when the mysterious merchant came for the first time. Its effect is to attract monsters to come. At this time, Qin Feng directly placed the blood bodhisattva fruit in the middle of the courtyard. As the blood bodhisattva fruit fell to the ground, a strange smell began to spread around. One person in one direction. Get ready for battle. At this time, Qin Feng's main body did not move, but controlled the heavenly Dao clone, and Daisy and the other 3, and came to the 4 directions of the courtyard respectively. Soon, in the distance, a series of roars rang out. Under the detection technique, the information of the monster coming came into view. Thunder Cat Monster. Level 80. Rank King. Battle Rating 80. Description: Thunder Attribute Monster, Brutal Temperament. Looking at the information in front of him, just as the Secret Realm information revealed. This is the 8th level Secret Realm, and the monsters in it are also they are all at level 8. The difficulty of level A means that the lowest level monsters in this Secret Realm are all King level. However, at the level of level 8, even the King level monsters cannot have the power of leaping levels. After all, the higher the level, the greater the difficulty of leaping levels. The Frost Mage under Qin Feng also took the Lord's talent and increased the combat rating by 5 levels before he could break through. Otherwise, normally speaking, to leap to level 8, you almost need to be at least epic level. To leap to level 9, you need to be at least legendary level. At level 10, if you want to cross levels and reach the Earth level combat power, even legends are not enough. This Secret Realm is of A-level difficulty. It is highly likely that the final leader will be a legend. It is not a big problem to take him down. While thinking in his heart, at this time, the battles on all sides have also broken out. More and more monsters of all kinds are coming from all directions. However, these monsters are obviously not the opponents of the 3 heroes and the clones of the Heavenly Tao. As the monsters were killed one by one, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with joy at this time. Killing one of these 8th level King level monsters can bring thousands of resources. In just such a period of time, the number of resources obtained has reached more than 200,000. Moreover, as time passed, at this time, the monsters that began to appear have reached epic level. And the resource income brought by killing one of the 8th level epic monsters has reached 2,000 points. However, the 8th level epic monsters are obviously much rarer. But this is a good thing. After all, the combat power of the 80 level epic monster has reached the threshold of the 9th level. If there are too many, it may not be so easy to deal with. Just like that, half an hour passed. When the sky was at the edge, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed. It was a huge elemental creature covered with thunder, which appeared in front of him. Spirit of Thunderstorm. Level 80. Rank Legend. Combat Power Rating 90. The strength of the 9th level peak is also the final leader of the Secret Realm. Seeing the appearance of the other party, Qin Feng's main body said at this time, "You rest first. Leave this guy to me." Such an arrangement is naturally not because Qin Feng wants to challenge this guy. Rather, Daisy and the other 3 people under his command have consumed too much in the previous battle, and this is time for them to recover. After all, Qin Feng did not intend to challenge only one Secret Realm. Instead, he wanted to buy all the Secret Realm scrolls sold by the mysterious merchant before he left, and complete the challenge. In this case, naturally, he had to allocate his physical strength reasonably. Daisy and the others cleaned up the monsters. Qin Feng was responsible for dealing with the final leader. During this period, Daisy and the others rested. When dealing with the monsters again in the next Secret Realm, Qin Feng recovered his physical strength. In this way, the cycle can save the most time. 0. The battle broke out soon. The strength of the Thunder Leader with the peak combat power of the 9th level is naturally needless to say. Qin Feng could not take him down in a short time. However, after a fierce battle, seeing that the opponent's breath was obviously much weaker, Qin Feng finally slashed with a sword. Death. The golden sword light cut through the sky and annihilated his vitality. At the same time, the prompt for the Secret Realm clearance appeared. When coming out of the Secret Realm, Qin Feng looked at the time and it took about 40 minutes. But the income was extremely considerable. In terms of resources, more than 600,000 yuan was collected, including 5 intermediate resource treasure chests, 3 advanced resource treasure chests, an A-level leader treasure chest, and 2 A-level skill books. Without hesitation, Qin Feng checked the properties of the 2 skill books and found that they were not very suitable for his staff. He immediately put them on the trading line for 100,000 resources each. Then, he found the mysterious merchant again. Then, he sold the remaining 6 Secret Realm exploration scrolls above the field level in one breath. As for the low-level ones, they are of no value. Because of the rules, the Lord cannot enter the secret realm below his own level. 6 exploration scrolls. 2 of them are level 8. But the difficulty is only level B. The next 4 are all level 7. But the difficulty is 1S level, 2A level, and 1B level respectively. Among them, the price of the 2 8th level exploration scrolls is 80,000. The price of the 4 7th level exploration scrolls, the S level 1, is even more expensive than the Thunder Ruins, reaching 250,000 resources. The 2A level exploration scrolls are also 100,000 resources. The last B level exploration scroll is 50,000 resources. In addition, Qin Feng also bought 6 blood Bodhi fruits again. Therefore, after buying these 6 exploration scrolls, the resource points just obtained were also consumed again. However, according to Qin Feng's estimation, if he clears all the remaining 6 scrolls, it is estimated that at least 2 million resources should be obtained. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.